W5FC. W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
And does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin tonight's Skynet? This is Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray. My name is Tom. I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic. We encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break very enthusiastically and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be B, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmission. This weekly net operates on this frequency with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible once again using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Just go to the club website, which is www.w5fc.org right now for please remember to tell others about this popular net. As I mentioned, all amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long and structured in several parts. We have number 1, general announcements. Number 2, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, and it's not tonight. 3, National Space Society events. 4, discussion topic of the evening, and we have a special guest this evening, Virginia NV5F, who will be giving us a presentation. We have What's Up, number 5. Number 6, Space Exploration and Space History. Number 7, Constellation of the Week. Number 8, Space Launches of the Week. Number 9, Recent Astronomical Discoveries, and if we have time, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. It's number 10, Astronomical Q&A, number 11, and 12, the 73 round. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. We will start with low power short time check-ins. If you are one of those, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from, and let me know if you're low power short time, please.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, low power, portable antenna, far north, East Dallas.
Okay, I've got W5GUS, Gus, far northeast Dallas. He's low power portable. Do I have anyone else low power short time? Please come now.
Kilo India 5, Uniform, Dallas, low power.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Lima Lima, Huey, Richardson, low power.
also got, well, I think I mentioned Gus, 75GUS, far northeast Dallas, low power. The next station I got KI5 and a uniform. You dropped out. If you could increase power. I know you're probably low power, but if you increase power or improve position, give me your call and your name and location, please.
Kilo India 5, uniform Juliet, Dustin, Dallas, slightly higher power.
I got you that time, and your signal is very clear now. KI5UUJ, that's Dustin in Dallas. I got KI5PLL, that's Hugh in Richardson. He is low power. I'm going to list you all as low power. Anyone else low power, short time? Okay, with the three of you checked in, you may disappear into the ether. Do you have anything you'd like to bring to the net? Please come with your call now. Hearing none, we'll continue. I'll take general check-ins now. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. General check-ins.
November 5, Bravo, Bill, in Irving.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, in a thunderous mesquite.
November 5, India, Mike Sierra, JJ in Carrollton.
Ooh, I have a feeling we're going to have a light night, but we'll see what happens. N5VB, Bill in Irving, K5JHA, Chaz in Mesquite, and N5IMS, JJ in Carrollton. Additional check-ins, please come out.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in DeSoto.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch. Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
Philip, White Rock Creek.
Okie dokie, let's see here. I'm going to need a fill on one of these. I've got WB50ZL, Miss Brenda in DeSoto, K5ZBL, Bill in Farmers Branch, KG5, Whiskey Victor Lima, that's James in Charleston, NV5F, Virginia in Fort Worth. Our featured guest this evening, KB9 SOK, Sean in Fort Worth. And then I heard White Rock, let me try that again, White Rock Creek, but I got covered earlier by Sean. So if I can get your call sign and your name, I'll put you on the list.
This is Kilo India 5, Kilo Tango Zulu, Philip, White Rock Creek.
Very good. I've got KI5KTZ, that's Philip and White Rock Creek, which I cannot say this evening. I don't know why. All right, one more round of general check-ins, and I'll move over to Echolink. Anyone like to join us? Please come with your call sign, name, where you are transmitting from. Okay, I'm going to go ahead put KG5OMR. That's Marcia. She's in Dallas. She's on the YouTube stream that I think she could have called by now. So I'm going to acknowledge her. I'll now move to Echolink. Let's see here. I'm looking to see. Yeah, we can get a few folks there. Echolink, if you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. Echolink only, I'll give you extra time.
Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey J Mobile in Parker County somewhere.
This is Kilo 5 Kilo Tango X-Ray Kelly in Quinlan.
Okay, very good. We've picked up two more. KG5BZWJ somewhere. Wasn't sure. He is mobile, though. K5KTX, Miss Kelly in Quinlan. All right, I'll open it up to anybody, anywhere who'd like to join us. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick, Dallas.
Golf 5 Zulu Mike Golf Joe in Arlington.
Kilo India 5 Whiskey Mike Whiskey Matthew HT Mobile.
Well, we got three more there. We got KG5APL, that's Patrick in Dallas. Welcome back. KG5ZMG, that's Joe in Arlington. KI5WMW, Matthew, he's on HT and mobile somewhere. Welcome, Matthew. I think that's the first time you checked in. Maybe not, but I think it is. All right, well, I'm not going to delay it any longer. We've got 19 check-ins. I suspect there may be a few more later on. We'll find out. So the next section of the net is general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These could be of ham, astronomical space, or general interest to licensed hams. Please come with your call now.
W5GUS.
All right, we've got Gus, W5GUS. Go ahead, Gus.
Okay, thank you, Tom. W5GUS here. I imagine most people listening tonight know this, but I'll mention it anyway. The coverage of the Orion reentry and splashdown is going to be covered live by NASA tomorrow, starting at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. The coverage of the Orion reentry and splashdown. Splashdown is actually 11:39 a.m. tomorrow, Sunday morning, and it should be covered live at nasa.gov. That's it. That's the announcement. That's the net. W.GUS.
Very good. Thank you, Gus. So the Orion splashdown coverage begins on NASA TV. You can go to, I believe it's nasa.gov/live. Coverage begins at 10 a.m. Central Time with the splashdown at 11:39 a.m. do have one other thing there. I don't know if it's going to get covered, but I did read today that they will leave the spacecraft in the water, bobbing around for at least an hour to an hour and a half to test the resiliency of the Orion spacecraft and make sure it doesn't have any holes. So expect that when you see it, and then if you're going to stick around, there won't be a lot going on except a lot of people watching it. So there you have it. Tomorrow, our first moon rocket since the Apollo program has completed its mission. The spacecraft is returning to Earth tomorrow. Okay, let's see. Any other announcements or bulletins? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and go through our usual stuff here. We have, coming up, I'm going to do the stream as well, so it's really interesting when you got to do everything. So do we, let's see here. After, hey, boy, I'm rusty tonight. The AMSAT, or Radio Amateur Satellite Group, has 3 nets available to Dallas residents, 2 here locally and 1 in Houston. The Houston one on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. You'll need Echolink installed and you registered to find it under groups and the name AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website, which is www.amsatnet.com. And this net, as I mentioned, originates in Houston, Texas. Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas Fort Worth, every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater. Tuesdays, this would be Tom N5HYT is net control usually, although he has given net controls every once in a while. All are welcome to check in. The first Tuesday of the month is DARC Club Night. We already had that last week, so there is no AMSAT Net East. However, you can get a second chance here in the Dallas area. You get AMSAT Net West every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater. Their frequency is 147.140 megahertz, also with a PL tone of 110.9. That one has a positive offset. We have DARC hosted nets. Mondays are a rotating schedule of nets. The first week is Ham Fixin's net. As we all know, many hams not only like to eat, they also like to cook. That's at 7 p.m. The second week is MCOM 101. You'll learn all about, that'll be Kevin, M5KRG. He'll tell you all about emergency communications and where and how you can connect with served agencies in the Dallas area if you're curious about it. Occasionally discussions about how you operate with those agencies. Really good net. Third week is the second helping of Ham Fixin's net. You already know about that. Fourth week is GeekNet. We expand beyond just amateur radio and into anything geeky, which includes computers, news of the weird, all sorts of fun things. It's a very good net that's done by Tony, NC5PM. This week, if there is one, is a surprise net. If we told you what it is, it wouldn't be a surprise. And on-air participation is encouraged. Don't forget, on Fridays also, we move to Friday, we have Search City Simulation at 8 p.m. Learn about emergency communications, get cert-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KI508, is usually the net control. This is the most disaster-prone city in the universe. Every Friday, Search City. All are welcome. And then Saturdays, of course, is our night of nets, starting with TechNet from 7 to 8 o'clock. And then, of course, there's a break. And then, of course, Skynet from 9 until 10. And then the Afterglow Movie Net, which is from 10:30 until midnight. Also, we have the first and third Sundays. It's the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Meeting on the Air, or MODA. And then finally, daily at 6:30 p.m., we have the ARRL Net National Training System, National Traffic System Training Net. That's an opportunity where you can be a part of a formalized network and handle traffic. One of the main reasons why the ARRL was created. So come by then. You can do no wrong because it's a training. Does anyone need have any questions or need any help? All right, don't forget, I mentioned that at 10:30 is the Afterglow Movie Net. So here we go. Listen carefully. I will give you the synopsis of the film. These are highly accurate, somewhat. Vernon Demarest looked at the captain he was about to check out, Anson Harris. The undergo examinations, looked at the senior pilot, who opened his flight bag and produced a pack of cigarettes, a bottle of wild turkey, an ice bucket with ice, as well as suitable glasses with airline logo and swivel sticks. Working for TGA had its benefits, and this was one of them. Cy Jordan, the flight engineer, who would soon be sent out to get more ice because that's what flight engineers were for, really didn't do anything except look at rows and rows of switches and dials, which really didn't do anything. Heck, he didn't even have his own window to look out of. The passengers got on the plane. An old lady, a crossing passenger, and a guy with a bomb. TGA looked at these people as cash meat and didn't care what they looked or acted like. Their money was as green as, and that's all that mattered. Join us for our first Christmas movie for 2022, Airport from 1970. No, it's not Airport 1970. There wasn't one. Or was there? I guess there was. Airport 1970. Oh, Airport 75. That's not the movie we're watching. It's Airport that came out in 1970, tonight at 10:30 p.m. You can keep up with all DARC events, nests, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. I will now ask if there's any additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us, now's your opportunity. Please come with your call sign name, where you're transmitting from.
W5BLT, Whiskey 5. Bacon, latest tomato. Name Bill, Garland.
Okay, well, I was watching over on Echolink, and let me go ahead and get the check-in. I got W5BLT that's still in Garland. And then, Anthony, I saw you trying to transmit KG5JPU over on Echolink. I got no audio, so I'm not sure what happened there, but I do have you checked in. You might want to check and see what is going on there. So we'll see what happens. And you are right, JJ. The movie is not Airport 77 either. It's just Airport. No bloody 75, 77, or 79. And no Concorde. Sorry. Next up is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. Where and when you can look through a telescope. This one is hand over to Chaz, KF5JHA. Chaz, what do you have for us for TAS?
You are correct. No observing tonight. Something about clouds and rain, yeah. There is no Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas general meeting in December due to the holidays. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas club meeting will be held on Friday, January the 27th in the year 2023. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas and also held on Zoom. Now, the featured speaker is going to be Dr. Erika Ellingson from the University of Colorado, and her topic is going to be on prehistoric moon watchers. This could be interesting, I think. Now, the Saturday night public observing stations has begun again. Of course, one's not happening tonight due to the weather. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night so that there would be an opportunity for live reports from the observing stations. That's not going to happen again tonight. Now, check the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing stations. And that's all for the moment. It's back to you, Mr. KE5ICX.
Thank you, Chaz. Don't forget, you got to go go to the meeting. I haven't been in a while. I need to go, but it's always way past my bedtime. Oh, well. Okay, let's see here. Next up, next section, number 3 is National Space Society Events and Activities. That is normally Bill, and he is indeed checked in somewhere on my list. Yeah, he's Number 5. Bill, N5PB, what do you got for us from the National Space Society?
I always wanted to be number 1, Tom. This is N5BB. I happen to be the membership director and member at large of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. If you have any questions about National Space Society, our local chapter, or the main big group, you can contact me at space@byrom.net. That's SPACE at BYROM.net, or N5BB at ARRL.net. Our normal meetings are on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. That date for December is tomorrow afternoon. But in December, we have our Christmas party. So this will be essentially members-only event. There's no WebEx or virtual thing involved with it. It'll be in person at Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving. And several amateur radio operators that participate in this net will actually be there. And some others that are members of National Space Society won't be because they have conflicts tomorrow afternoon. So anyway, if you do want to join the National Space Society or a local chapter, you're welcome to attend our party. But otherwise, it's a party for the members. Let's see. The party will start at 3 o'clock at Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving. What else? Oh, the big event is going to be the International Space Development Conference 2023. This will be occurring in Frisco, the suburb of Dallas, in 2023, just in about 5 months. It'll be May 25th through 28th of 2023. That's right, the first part of the Memorial Day weekend. So it will be at the Embassy Suites by Hilton in Frisco. If you are a member of the National Space Society, the big group, you will get a discount for attending there because it's one of these conferences with dinners and speakers, and we have to pay for the facility. So it costs money to attend these conferences. You know, it's a big conference, fancy conference. So anyway, if you have any questions about that, you can look at the International Space Development Conference. And that website is isdc2023.nss.org. Or you can do a web search for ISDC 2023, and I'm sure you'll find it. The National Space Society has a website, our local chapter, and the Facebook page, which you can find just by looking for National Space Society of North Texas. The website is nssofnt.org, or you can just look for it on Facebook, National Space Society of North Texas. We don't have any other activities occurring in December other than the Christmas party. That's all I've got. And don't forget about the Artemis 1 coming back in tomorrow evening. On the NASA blog, I swear they've monkeyed with the time. And it originally said it was coming in at about 10:39 a.m. Central Time, and then they changed it to 11:39. Excuse me. It originally said 11:39. Then they changed it to 10:39. Then they put it back to 11:39. So I believe that the correct time is 11:39 a.m. Central Standard Time. N5BB. That's all I got.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. And I think you are correct. I think if you have any doubts, just go to nasa.gov/live. I think it'll give you the information, or just type in nasa.gov, your favorite search engine, and includes Artemis 1 schedule. I think you'll find it that way too. I'll look it up later and confirm, but I think you're right, Bill. I think it's at 11:30 our time. That is flashes there. Okay, let's see. Next up is discussion topic of the evening, and this is not me this evening. This is going to be Virginia, November Victor 5 Foxtrot. She's going to be talking about the very brave. So, Virginia, the net is yours. I just gave it the title Keeping Up with the VLA, but it actually is from a paper you did. Very Large Array Keeps Up with Radio Astronomy. So, Virginia, take it away.
Okay, KE5, ICX in the net. This is Virginia NV5F. First, I'll do a radio check. Can you hear me, Tom?
Yes, you sound fine. Your audio is a little lower and there's a slight buzz, but you're very readable and you are holding the repeater.
Okay, thank you. I will try to speak more into the microphone. I appreciate this opportunity this evening. Sounds like there's a lot going on. I will be at the NSS party tomorrow, and sounds like there's a lot of other great stuff going on this month. So I appreciate you guys having me on, and I did explore this topic for a class that I'm taking, and the astronomy section required of me to do a little research on one of my favorite topics in astronomy. So here we go. And the slide master is at his liberty with images. So I appreciate Tom for finding images for this paper this evening. So thank you very much, Tom. The Very Large Array near Socorro, New Mexico is a radio telescope comprised of 27 steerable dishes, which was proposed to the National Science Foundation in 1967 and began construction in 1972. Construction on the VLA was completed in 1980. The first time I ever saw the VLA was in 1984 in the opening scene of the movie 2010, The Year We Make Contact. At that time, I had little idea what it was for, but I knew that those 25-meter wide dishes were pointing at space trying to find something important. I also had little idea of the vastness of the array, which flanks Highway 60 about an hour west of Socorro. I finally was able to see the VLA in person in 2004. At the time it was constructed, the VLA was not only unique for its sheer size and number of dishes, but also for its versatility. In 1980, it was considered that the VLA might revolutionize radio astronomy. However, no one could predict just how much. Besides the ability to change its physical scale, changes in frequency band and correlator mode could be effected in seconds, enabling astronomers to acquire a range of information on astronomical objects not possible on any other centimeter wavelength radio telescope. These attributes encouraged users of the VLA to image radio emission from processes far removed from those given in the original proposal as science goals for the array. Indeed, much of the VLA's most original and influential observations are in fields unanticipated or unknown at the time of construction. The National Radio Astronomy Observatory, VLA, despite having been built over 40 years ago, is still regarded as a world-class instrument due to its versatility and adaptability, and thanks to the expanded VLA project of the early 2000s, the VLA has been at the heart of discoveries such as supernovas, black holes, and water ice on Mercury. With plans for the next generation VLA, which is scheduled to begin development in the coming decade, the VLA is likely to remain on the forefront of astronomical discovery in the 21st century. Radio astronomy differs from more traditional astronomy in that instead of using the visible electromagnetic spectrum, it depends on detection of the much longer invisible waves of the radio band. These waves, which travel further because they are longer, can allow us to see objects which would be much too faint on the visible spectrum. These different wavelengths also allow us to see through objects to others which might otherwise be blocked from our view. One can find out much more about celestial objects by analyzing these radio emissions, such as determining the chemical composition of a star or nebula with line spectrometry. Another example is understanding the structures of objects by considering their magnetic fields. These are advantages of radio astronomy. However, among radio telescopes, the VLA has advantages over its single-dish predecessors and smaller fixed arrays. The Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico, an NSF-funded single-dish radio telescope, which was decommissioned in 2020 after it became clear that its condition was in decline after several of the support cables for its collector broke, is, in essence, one of the VLA's predecessors and a very different animal. With its 1,000-foot-wide mesh dish suspended in a natural sinkhole, Arecibo was the world's largest single-dish radio telescope and had a collection area much larger than the 27 dishes of the VLA, which made it capable of detecting signals from extremely distant objects. In fact, Arecibo was the observatory where the existence of an extrasolar planet was first detected in 1992. The VLA, on the other hand, can detect objects with much greater resolution than any of its older siblings, single dish and array alike, due simply to the fact that it has a much larger aperture. Just as with optical telescopes, radio telescopes with a wider diameter can see greater detail. While the Arecibo telescope has a resolution of 60 arcseconds, less than the human eye, the VLA has a far finer resolution of 1.4 arcseconds. The VLA is in fact a shapeshifter with a variable diameter from 1 to 35 kilometers, in which the Y-shaped array, 3 arms of 9 dishes each, can be set in one of 4 configurations labeled A, B, C, and D, with A being the most spread apart and D being the most compact. Each configuration has specific and beneficial attributes for viewing different types of objects. The VLA also has the advantage of a larger viewing angle and the ability to view on multiple frequencies at one time. Within a very short time of its commissioning in 1980, the VLA had already been used to detect and confirm the existence of an Einstein ring, which is the evidence of a bright celestial object directly behind another object, which is only visible due to the gravitational lensing of its signals by the nearer object. Another of the major discoveries by the VLA was the confirmation of a supermassive black hole at the center of the Milky Way in 1982, and in 1999, astronomers using the VLA confirmed the existence of water ice at the poles of Mercury. It was around this time that the VLA was nearing 20 years of service since its completion, and despite far outdoing expectations of its creators, the telescope and its technology were beginning to show their age. Thus, it was also around this time that an upgrade, the expanded VLA, was proposed. It had been nearly 30 years since the 60s when the array had been designed, and technology had certainly come a quantum leap since then. The electronics and computer technology on each of the 27 dishes had to be replaced, along with upgrading the number of received frequency bands from 4 to 8. The VLA is an interferometer, which is a system of creating images by combining radio data from several sources with extremely complex calculations, which reconcile time delays and angles of received signals. This allows for multi-dish telescopes, which have much greater resolution. However, it also means a very large amount of complex data for each antenna. The original version of the VLA used underground waveguides, which are hollow tubes, with a diameter matching the signal wavelength to move the signals from each of the dishes, and a complicated system of computers to receive and correlate all the data and resolve it into an image. In 2001, the expanded VLA project began an 11-year process of replacing the system with an all-digital fiber optic network and a single supercomputer called a correlator, which is many times more powerful than the previous configuration. Another advance of the EVLA is the programming of the array by researchers and the collecting of data that can be done remotely. Though this method does not have the charm of ardent scientists camping out in a dormitory out at the VLA site in New Mexico for several weeks while anticipating data from long-awaited opportunities to use the world's most productive radio telescope, the new way is much more efficient and convenient. In fact, the new system greatly optimizes scheduling and use of telescope time, which is especially important since the NRAO is currently conducting the VLA Sky Survey, which will index images of about 10 million radio sources for general use. In addition to this, the VLA does have an open sky policy, which means that the data for specific studies is only proprietary for 1 year, after which time it is made public and can be used by other astronomers, thereby greatly increasing the possibility of new discoveries and reducing the duplication of efforts. Here in 2022, it's amazing to think that the VLA has been around for over 40 years and has already undergone a major technological rebirth, which was so comprehensive that the array was formally renamed the Carl G. Jansky Very Large Array. Jansky, the father of radio astronomy, who was not an astronomer at all, discovered the existence of radio signals from the center of the Milky Way in 1931 while conducting a study of radio noise in Earth's atmosphere for Bell telephone. Though he went on to other non-astronomic endeavors, after his groundbreaking discovery, Jansky was a brilliant radio engineer and is revered to this day as the man who discovered that stars and galaxies emit so much more than just visible light. It is also amazing to imagine, here in 2022, that the VLA is already coming due for another upgrade. The next generation VLA, or NGVLA, has already been proposed, and construction of a prototype for its smaller antennas, 18-meter dishes, has been approved by the NSF. This enormous radio telescope will essentially replace the VLA in a process which could be complete by 2035. The NGVLA will still have its headquarters in Socorro. However, it will be comprised of 263 antennas concentrated in the southwest U.S. and northern New Mexico and reaching as far out as Hawaii, Puerto Rico, and Iowa across 5,505 miles. This will make the VLA 10 to 100 times more powerful, as well as making it possible to operate several array configurations at one time without the need to do a long process of reconfiguring the dishes in a 16-month cycle as is presently done at the VLA site, with a railway system and specially designed 70-ton transport vehicles. Though the VLA has inspired other multi-antenna arrays across the globe, some of which have surpassed it on certain fronts, it remains the most used and recognized radio telescope of our time, staying on the cutting edge of scientific discovery through continuing adaptation and innovation. More than 3,000 researchers from around the world have used the VLA for more than 11,000 different observing projects. Studies done with the expanded VLA are being made in cooperation with other arrays such as the Very Large Baseline Array, VLBA, and Atacama Large Millimeter Submillimeter Array, ALMA, and as the NGVLA begins development and implementation later this decade, the next step is being taken in cooperation with astronomers worldwide and will be the key to addressing the most important astronomical questions of our time, as well as those we do not yet know to ask. This is NV5S, and Tom, I thank you very much for giving me the floor for this presentation this evening. I hope it has been interesting, and you have my express permission to republish this paper on the Skynet site if you would like. It's got a lot of really neat references. There are a lot of great videos if you get on YouTube and look up NRAO, National Radio Astronomy Observatory, and the VLA. The VLA themselves have a great outreach program, and they do some fantastic videos for people to just learn. And the NSF has a ton of stuff, and the VLA itself has a website that's great. And that last picture was me playing the bagpipes at the VLA. So thank you very much, Tom. And the net, back over to you, K5ICX in V5F.
Well, thank you, Virginia, and thank you for volunteering that. We love it when people actually come in, and you especially, because of your interest in astronomy and so many different things, but astronomy first and foremost in amateur radio. So yes, absolutely, we love to have other people present. So I thought I'd give my slot away because I've presented a million times stuff that I know nothing about, and this is something you know something about. I will go ahead and publish the paper on, probably I'll put it on the Facebook page, and I'll put it under documents, and you can refer to it again another time, or any time anybody wants to look. And I'll also leave a link to the net tonight. Thank you so much. I do really appreciate it. Okay, let's see here. This is KE5ICX and Net Control tonight. Skynet. Next up is Chaz. He has something for us for What's Up. So, Chaz, it's your turn.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Virginia. That was great. Our astronomy students at the Brookhaven campus of the Dallas College have to do research projects for their astronomy class as well. So, yes. This is KF5JHA. My degree is in astrophysics. I work at the astrophysics labs and geology labs at the Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus, and we call this segment of Skynet What's Up. Slide master, that would be Tom again. Slide number 2, please. On December the 7th, the moon was full. There was also an occultation of Mars that night. We'll get to that in a few minutes. So the current phase of the moon is a waning gibbous. On December the 11th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 405,869 kilometers. The moon is at its third quarter phase on December the 16th. New moon happens on December 23rd. So on December 24th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 358,270 kilometers. Slide master, slide number 3, please. The Geminid meteor shower is one of the major meteor showers during the year, and it peaks on the night of December the 13th, 14th, with up to 150 meteors per hour. That's one about every 20 seconds. Pretty good. There are 2 minor meteor showers in the middle and end of December. The Coma Bernicids peak on the night of December the 15th, 16th, with only 3 to 5 meteors per hour, and the December Leonis Minorids peak on the night of December 19th, 20th, with about 5 meteors per hour. Now, more information about meteor showers can be found at the International Meteor Organization, IMO.net, and the American Meteor Society, AMSmeteors.org. Slide master, slide number 4, please. Yeah, a few days ago on November the 30th, Mars was at its closest approach to the Earth. On November the 7th, Mars was in opposition, which means it was 180 degrees away from or opposite the sun in the sky. Slide master, slide number 5. Now, on December the 7th, the moon was occulted by the planet Mars. No, the moon occulted the planet Mars. Unfortunately, the weather was mostly cloudy during that event with some fog in our area. I was not able to observe it. Most people were not in North Texas. Now, we have another occultation of Mars visible in North Texas at the end of January. We'll talk about that in upcoming Skynet. There's also an occultation of the planet Uranus on January the 1st. But again, we'll talk about that in upcoming Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 6, please. We usually don't have a planet nor the moon close to a deep sky object, but on December the 12th, planet Mercury will be about 2 degrees away from the Sagittarius star cluster, also known as M22. And, Slide Master, slide number 7, 4 days later, on December 16th, Venus will be about 1/4 of a degree away from the Sagittarius star cluster, M22. Slide Master, slide number 8, please. Now, on Christmas Eve, December the 24th, that's also a night of Skynet. I know who the net control is going to be on that night. There is a conjunction of the moon, Venus, and Mercury, very low, early in the evening, southwestern sky. Should be interesting. That's going to happen before Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 5. The day after Christmas, on December 26th, there's going to be conjunction of the moon and Saturn, and it's going to be easily seen in the southwestern evening sky. And 2 days later after that, Slide Master, slide number 10, on December the 28th, the conjunction of Venus and Mercury. Now that's going to be low in the southwestern early evening sky. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 11. Now, there is no Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting in December. Already told you that because of holidays. And the next one is going to be on January the 27th, 2023 at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also will be held on Zoom. It's a hybrid. We've been doing that for quite some time. I think May we started having in-person meetings again. The featured speaker is Dr. Erika Ellingson with the University of Colorado, and her topic is going to be prehistoric moon watchers. And the public observing sessions have begun again, but not tonight. They're on Saturday nights. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights so we could have reports from that, but it's not happening tonight. TexasAstro.org is the place to get information and details about past public observing sessions and meetings. Slide Master, slide number 12. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any information? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. We like to hear questions. If I don't have an answer to it, someone else here probably will. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or comment. Well, I waited for a while. Slide Master, slide number 13. So the moon is waning right now, so these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live right now. And until next time, actually I'll be doing another Skynet segment in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And net control, maybe I should check in Bob the cat. He's laying right beside the computer here next to Echo Link. Does he count? This is KF5JHA.
Well, I'm not sure. He has a lot of QRM he likes to lay on your keyboard and in front of you while you're on your radio. So I don't know. We'll have to check on that. He probably needs a call sign, but maybe we'll find it. All right, this is KE5ICX, and I am net control for tonight's Skynet. We're barreling along here, so the next thing we have is space exploration and space history. This week, that is handled by Brenda, WB5OZL, and I know she's here. So, Brenda, go ahead and give us your report from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. This is WB50ZL. Excuse my voice. I've had a bit of a cold earlier this week, and it's not totally gone yet. So, in space exploration news, as we all know, Artemis 1 returns to Earth tomorrow. Live coverage as Mission Control Houston monitors the spacecraft's entry, descent, and splashdown off the coast of San Diego, and that will begin at 11 a.m. Sunday. Splashdown is expected at 12:40 p.m. You might want to check on that. After which the Exploration Ground Systems Recovery Team from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida, working with the U.S. Navy, will recover this spacecraft. Next, a Chicxulub-like asteroid caused a mega tsunami on early Mars. The Chicxulub-like asteroid crash-landed in a shallow ocean waters of the Martian region of Planitia 3.4 billion years ago in the Hesperian period, and left a crater about 110 kilometers wide, according to new research led by Planetary Science Institute scientists. In 1971, NASA's Mariner 9 spacecraft discovered on Mars the first extraterrestrial landscapes of likely fluvial origin, including probable catastrophic flood channels of enormous proportions, said Planetary Institute researcher Alexis Rodriguez and colleagues. 5 years later, NASA's Viking 1 lander was the first spacecraft to operate successfully on the Martian surface. The spacecraft landed near the terminus of an enormous catastrophic flood channel, Mahavalles. However, instead of the expected mega flood record, its cameras imaged a boulder-strewn surface of elusive origin. Dubbed Pole, that's P-O-H-L, the crater has a diameter of 110 kilometers and is located within an area of the northern lowlands that previous studies have suggested may have been covered by an ocean in a region around 120 meters below its proposed sea level. News this week about SOFIA. NASA's now retired Stratospheric Observatory for Infrared Astronomy, SOFIA, aircraft will find a permanent home in the Pima Air and Space Museum in Tucson, Arizona. The airplane is expected to make its final flight from NASA's Armstrong Flight Research Center in Palmdale, California, to Tucson on Tuesday, December 13th. The SOFIA aircraft is a Boeing 747 SP jetliner modified to carry a reflecting telescope. Engineering innovations enabled a large door in the fuselage to remain open while the aircraft was in flight, allowing the telescope to observe infrared light from the moon, planets, stars, star-forming regions, and nearby galaxies. After a successful 8 years of science, SOFIA completed its science program and ended operations on September 29, 2022. Pima, one of the world's largest aerospace museums, is developing plans for when and how SOFIA aircraft will eventually be on display to the public. Along with 6 hangars, 80 acres of outdoor display grounds, and more than 425 aircraft from around the world, Pima also has its own restoration facility where incoming aircraft like SOFIA are prepared for museum immortalization after their arrival. At Pima, the plane will join other notable NASA aircraft like the first Super Guppy that transported Saturn V rocket parts for the Apollo missions, and the KC-135 Weightless Wonder 5 that created low-gravity conditions by flying parabolic arcs, steep climbs and dives to conduct science experiments and train astronauts. NASA plans to support the exhibition of the SOFIA aircraft with additional mission artifacts that speak to SOFIA's legacy. And sad news this week, Joe Kittinger died. Colonel Joseph William Kittinger II, July 27, 1928 to December 9, 2022, was an officer in the United States Air Force and a command pilot. His initial operational assignment was in fighter aircraft, but then he participated in the Project Manhigh and Project Excelsior high-altitude balloon flight projects from 1956 to 1960 and was the first man to fully witness the curvature of the Earth. Take that, flat earthist. He set a world record for the highest skydive, 102,800 feet, on August 16, 1960. Kittinger took part in Project Stargazer on December 13 to 14, 1962. He and the astronomer William C. White took an open gondola helium balloon packed with scientific equipment to an altitude of about 82,200 feet, where they spent over 18 hours performing astronomical observations. Birthdays. We only have 4. Ronald M. Sega, December 4th, 1952. He flew on STS-60 and 76. Bruce E. Melnick, December 5th, 1949, STS-41 and 49. Rob Coolin, December 7th, 1983. No missions. Matthew Dominic, December 7th, 1981. No missions yet. Is selected for NASA Group 22. Now, space history. The Pioneer Venus orbiter. Venus's surface is surrounded in mystery thanks to its ultra-thick atmosphere, but when the Pioneer Venus orbiter reached orbit 44 years ago on December 4th, 1978, it sent back detailed data about the planet for another 14 years. There were 17 experiments on board, but I want to focus on just one in the interest of time. A surface radar mapper, ORAD, to determine topography and surface characteristics. Observations could only be conducted when the probe was closer than 4,700 kilometers over the planet. A 20-watt S-band signal, 1.757 gigahertz, was sent to the surface that reflected it, with the probe analyzing the echo. Resolution at periapsis was 23 times 7 kilometers. 17 launch on December 7th, 1972, our last so far mission to the lunar surface launched. Apollo 17 hosted the first scientist astronaut to land on the moon, Harrison Schmitt. The 6th automated research station was set up. The lunar rover vehicle traversed a total of 30.5 kilometers. Lunar surface stay time was 75 hours, and lunar orbit time 17 hours. Astronauts gathered 110.4 kilograms, or 243 pounds of material. Besides Schmitt, Eugene Cernan and Ron Evans were crew members. It was a very successful mission, and it's a real shame that the other Apollo missions were canceled. This next image is one of the most famous of the Apollo photos, the Blue Marble. This photograph was taken 5 hours and 6 minutes after the launch, when Apollo 17 was 18,000 miles from Earth on December 7th, 1972. And raise your hand if you ever had this poster on your wall. Tom? Okay, that's all we got. Back to net, WB5OZL.
Well, thank you, Brenda. And yes, you already knew that because we were chatting about it. And by the way, I want to thank you. Brenda managed to get astronaut Harrison Schmitt over to my side of the room at the commemoration of the Apollo 7 mission. He was in the building, as were all the Apollo astronauts that has survived, with the exception of the Apollo 8 crew. That was, who are still alive. That was really great. I really appreciate that. Here's a little bit of trivia, too. This picture that you see, we used to have a kiosk at the museum that showed the lunar surface. It's been upgraded since then. But it also had this picture, but the problem with the picture was it was backwards. It had the African continent pointing the other way. Just a little bit of trivia, and it's very little because the kiosk no longer exists. Okay, next up, we're just barreling on. You know what? Let me go ahead and take additional check-ins at this point. We've got some time. I'll go ahead and ask if anybody would like to join us. Please come with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. That includes Echolink.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf. This is Cruz in Arlington.
Kilo Golf 5, Juliet Papa Uniform. Anthony in Benbrook on Echolink.
Right, very good. I got you checked in, Nancy. Your signal is excellent now. The audio came through just fine. I've got KI5KWG. That's Cruz over in Arlington. Anyone else want to join us? Please come to your call. Okay, well, we're moving right along. Next up is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week for December 10th, 2022. That's Chaz again, KF5JHA. Chaz, run back to the radio. You're next.
Well, thank you, Tom. We found a possible honorary call sign for Bob the Cat, K1TTY. Unfortunately, it's already being used by an amateur radio operator. Miss Carolyn's Constellation Week is named in honor of Silent Key, Carolyn, KC5OZT. She had cats, and she had cats sometimes attacking her keyboard while she was trying to do Skynet. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. In her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Andromeda, the Princess. Now, we've talked about the myth behind it. Andromeda, well, of course, is a princess. Cassiopeia is the queen. Cepheus is the king. Perseus is the hero. Pegasus is the flying horse. And Cetus is the sea monster. All of these characters from the story are constellations in the sky. Slide Master, slide number 15, please. Now, this is what all of you have been waiting for, except for what Virginia was talking about, I'm sure. Yeah, the VLA. The jokes of the week. Yeah, here we go. How does a princess, put in a light bulb? She holds the bulb in the socket and waits for the world to revolve around her. Why didn't the Disney princess Elsa go to the doctor when she got sick? Because the cold never bothered her anyway. If you never saw the movie, you don't know what I'm talking about. Who is the hottest Disney princess? Come on, this is easy. Someone's got to do this. JJ on Echolink, you've got to know this one. Who's the hottest Disney princess? Oh, he's not talking. Okay, it has to be Cinderella. Get it? Cinders are hot. Okay, Cinderella. My girlfriend is angry with me for incorrectly quoting The Princess Bride. Unbelievable. Oh, come on, if you haven't seen that movie either. Okay. Why did Princess Leia contract coronavirus on purpose? Because she wanted to woo Han. Come on, that was probably pretty good. Okay, one more. Princess Elsa never could catch coronavirus. Why? Because she's the master of self-isolation. Okay, this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Masters, please, slide number 16. Gamma Andromeda. Dave Hutchinson writes in the TASS newsletter that this star is a beautiful double star with good color contrast with a yellow primary and a green-blue secondary. Reminiscent of Albireo, that's the famous one in Cygnus that has that color contrast. Slide Master, slide number 17. M31 is the Andromeda Galaxy, one of the finest deep sky showpiece objects in the heavens. It is bright enough to be visible to the naked eye from a dark sky site, but even in light-polluted skies, it can be seen in binoculars. I've seen it in binoculars at the Brookhaven campus, and I can't do it now, but I used to be able to. M31 is the best viewed at lower powers, if you're trying to take in the entire galaxy at once anyway. Higher power can be useful to viewing details in the galaxy, and M31 spans over 3 degrees of the sky. So it's big enough that there would be a lot of details to be seen. Recent estimates put M31 at 2.65 million light years from the Earth, making it the furthest object visible to the naked eye by most people. Some sharp-eyed folks can see M33 and Triangle M under clear, dark skies, which is a bit further than M31. But most people, M31 is the furthest they can see. Slide Master, slide number 18, please. M32 is one of the companion galaxies of M31. It is an elliptical galaxy that appears spherical in shape. At lower powers, especially at smaller telescope, it shows little detail, so it's almost indistinguishable from a star near M31. In fact, there is a star similar in brightness very close by M31, so you may have to look at a photograph of M31 and make sure that M32 is the one you're really looking at and not the star next to the galaxy. Slide Master, slide number 19. M110 is another companion galaxy to M31. It appears further out from the nucleus on M31 than M32 does. M32 and M110 are analogous to the Magellanic Clouds of the Milky Way, but whereas the Magellanic Clouds are irregular galaxies, M32 and M30 and M110 are elliptical. Also, like the Milky Way, the Andromeda Galaxy has other smaller companion galaxies further out. M32 and M110 can be observed with smaller aperture instruments from a dark sky site. In early 2000s, as an experiment, Dennis Harwell pointed his 50-millimeter refractor at M31 while under dark skies. Using a long focal eyepiece, provided a magnification of about 11 or 12 power, he could see all 3 galaxies, M31, M32, and M110, with only 2 inches on the telescope aperture. Pretty cool. Slide Master, slide number 20, please. There's a challenge object tonight. It's called G1. This is a globular cluster in M31. You know, that galaxy that's far out there. It orbits M31 at a distance of about 100,000 light years from the galaxy's nucleus. It is estimated to have about 300,000 stars. If we could remove this object from M31 and place it next to Omega Centaur in our sky, it would be brighter than Omega Centaur. And Omega Centaur is a really bright globular cluster that we can see in the late spring, early summer, but you've got to go to southern Texas to see it. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 21, please. There are a few more astronomically observing program objects in the constellation of Andromeda, the Princess. I've just given you a few samplings of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 75 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. Now, if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, do the calculations, it's a math thing, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide Master, slide number 22, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Andromeda the Princess. I want to thank my friends Dennis Harwell and Dave Hutchinson for their research and works on deep sky objects that I've used, borrowed, and I steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now next time I'll take a look at Aries the Ram and Triangulum the Triangle. And this is KF5 JHA sending a net back to our net control. Tom, it's all yours. 73 to everyone.
Very good. Thank you, Chad. Thank you for enlightening us over Andromeda, Andromeda Galaxy, and all the other galaxies that are around it. This is KE5 ICX net control for tonight's Skynet. The next section we have is the space launches for this week, or actually for this month, and for the rest of this month. So I went ahead and cobbled these together. I get the information from Space Coast Launches. That's spaceflightnow.com/blog/launch list. And also my favorite, which is Spaceflight Now launch schedule, which is spaceflightnow.com/launch schedule. We have coming up on December 11th at 2:38 a.m. Eastern Time, a launch from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch the first commercial Akuto R lunar lander for iSpace, a Japanese-based company that competed for the Google Lunar X Prize and is now developing a series of robotic lunar landers. The first lander, called iSpace Mission 1, was assembled in partnership with the Ariane Group and carries a package of international and commercial payloads, including 2 small lunar rovers from the United Arab Emirates and Japan. The mission will target a landing in the Lacus Sumiorum region of the Moon. NASA's lunar flashlight CubeSat will also be a rideshare payload on this launch. The Falcon 9 first stage booster will return to landing zone 1 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. On December 13th, we have a commercial launch, the Galaxy 35 and 36 and MTG-I-1. This will be the ELA-3 from Kourou, French Guyana. That's the launch site. Arianespace will use the Ariane 5 ECA rocket, designated VA-259, to launch the Galaxy 35-36 communications satellite for Intelsat, and the MTG-I-1 weather satellite for EMETSAT, EUMETSAT. You try and say that, boy. The Galaxy 35 and 36, built by Maxar, will provide C-band television and radio broadcast services over the United States. This is the first Meteosat third-generation imager satellite. MTG-I-1 will provide weather imagery over Europe for the European Weather Satellite Agency, EUMETSAT. There, I tried it. December 13th and 14th, that'll be overnight, is the Electron launch of Virginia is for Launch Lovers. That's the name of the rocket, folks. The launch window is between 6 and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard on the 13th. Using Launch Complex 2 Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport at Wallops Island, Virginia, the Rocket Lab Electron launch vehicle will lift off with 3 satellites for the Hawkeye 360 radio frequency geospatial analytics provider. This will be the first Rocket Lab mission from the new launch pad in Virginia. In mid-December, no date's been picked yet, the mPOWER 1 and 2 will launch from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch the first of two O3B mPOWER broadband internet satellites into medium Earth orbit for SES of Luxembourg. The satellites built by Boeing will provide internet services over most of the populated world, building on SES's O3B network. Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. And I'm going to give you just two more here. They were currently, I just kept scrolling and scrolling. December 15th, we have a Falcon 9 SWAT mission. This is from SLC-4E at Vandenberg Space Force Base, California. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket surface, water, and ocean photography mission for NASA. SWAT is a science mission jointly developed by NASA and CNES, the French space agency, to measure how much water is in Earth's oceans, lakes, and rivers. Falcon 9's first stage booster will return to landing zone 4 at Vandenberg Space Force Base. And finally, in December, Falcon 9 Starlink 2-2 will launch from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch another batch of Starlink Internet satellites from Vandenberg Space Force Base. That can't be right because, well, I think they mean Cape Canaveral. This mission will deploy the Starlink satellites into a high inclination orbit, inclined 70 degrees to the equator after flying southeast from Cape Canaveral. And I'm going to skip the rest because there's just too many. There's a lot of missions in January that will launch. So I'll go ahead and ask if there's any additional check-ins at this time before we move to the next section. If you'd like to join us, please come down with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from.
November 0, Mike Delta. Name is Ed from Fort Worth.
This is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay 17.
Okay, we got two, possibly three. I've got N0MD, that's Ed in East Fort Worth. And Ed, I just saw your call sign, and all I can think of is the Nomad space probe from Star Trek. And then N50F, that's Clay in Mesquite. Anyone else? Please come down. Okie dokie, next is Brenda for recent astronomical discoveries, WB5OZL. What do you have for us?
Thank you, Tom. This is WB5OZL. Title of this is Hubble detects ghostly glow surrounding our solar system. Ooh. Imagine walking into a room at night, turning out all the lights and closing the shades. Yet an eerie glow comes from the walls, ceiling, and floor. The faint light is barely enough to see your hands before your face, but it persists. Sounds like a scene out of Ghost Hunters? No, but for astronomers, this is the real deal. But looking for something that's close to nothing is not easy. One possible explanation is that a shell of dust envelops our solar system all the way out to Pluto and is reflecting sunlight. Seeing airborne dust caught in sunbeams is no surprise when cleaning the house. But this must have a more exotic origin because the glow is so smoothly distributed. The likely source is innumerable comets, free-flying, dusty snowballs of ice. They fall in toward the sun from all different directions, spewing out an exhaust of dust as the ices sublimate due to heat from the sun. If real, this would be a newly discovered architectural element of the solar system. It has remained invisible until the very imaginative and curious astronomers and the power of Hubble came along. Aside from a tapestry of glittering stars and the glow of the waxing and waning moon, the nighttime sky looks inky black to the casual observer. But how dark is dark? To find out, astronomers decided to sort through 200,000 images from NASA's Hubble Space Telescope and made tens of thousands of measurements on these images to look for any residual background glow in the sky in an ambitious project called SkySurf. This would be any leftover light after subtracting the glow from planets, stars, galaxies, and from dust in the plane of our solar system, called zodiacal light. When researchers completed the inventory, they found an exceedingly tiny excess of light, equivalent to the steady glow of 10 fireflies spread across the entire sky. That's like turning out all the lights in a shuttered room and still finding an eerie glow coming from the wall, ceiling, and floor. The researchers say that one possible explanation for this residual glow is that our inner solar system contains a tenuous sphere of dust from comets that are falling into the solar system from all directions, and the glow is sunlight reflecting off this dust. If real, this dust shell could be a new addition to the known architecture of the solar system. This idea is bolstered by the fact that in 2021 another team of astronomers used data from NASA's New Horizons spacecraft to also measure the sky background. New Horizons flew by Pluto in 2015 and a small Kuiper Belt object in 2018 and is now heading into interstellar space. The New Horizons measurements were done at a distance of 4 to 5 billion miles from the sun. This is well outside the realm of the planets and asteroids where there is no contamination from interplanetary dust. New Horizons detected something a bit fainter that is apparently from a more distant source than Hubble detected. The source of the background light seen by New Horizons also remains unexplained. There are numerous theories ranging from the decay of dark matter to a huge unseen population of remote galaxies. If our analysis is correct, there's another dust component between us and the distance where New Horizons made measurements. That means this is some kind of extra light coming from inside our solar system, said Tim Carlton of Arizona State University. Because our measurement of residual light is higher than New Horizons, we think it is a local phenomenon that is not from far outside the solar system. It may be a new element to the contents of the solar system that has hypothesized, but not quantitatively measured until now, said Carlton. Hubble veteran astronomer Roger Wilhorst, also of ASU, first got the idea to assemble Hubble data to go looking for any ghost light. More than 95% of the photons in the images from Hubble's archive came from distances less than 3 million miles from Earth. Since Hubble's very early days, most Hubble users have discarded these sky photons as they are interested in the discrete objects in Hubble's images such as stars and galaxies, said Windhorst. But these sky photons contain important information which could be extracted thanks to Hubble's unique ability to measure faint brightness levels to high precision over 3 decades of lifetime. All right, back to net. WB50ZL.
All right, very good. Thank you, Brenda. Okay, well, we're reaching the end of the net. Do we have any additional check-in? Please come now. Are there any questions or comments for tonight? once again, I want to thank Virginia, November Victor 5 Foxtrot, for giving us a presentation on the very large array. And we hope that you'll consider bringing presentation yourself out there if you've got something that you care about and want to discuss. We've got a lot of people with a lot of very interesting backgrounds that could probably fill us in.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning
So,
perfectly.
I'm going to close it out now. We had 24 hams participating on the air, including the NCS. Thanks to you all for checking in. We hope that you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're also looking for net controls for this and all the other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this very fun activity, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to net@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray, Tom, and I'll be closing the net at 22:30 on the dot, local time, and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. We will pick up with the Afterglow movie net. Tonight's movie is called Airport from 1970. We'll be doing that in about, let's give it 5 minutes. 5 minutes, and come back and begin that discussion. See you then. This is KE5 ICX. I'm clear for now.
NV5F, this is N5BB. By the way, Virginia, I got a tour of the guts of the Very Large Array in New Mexico when it was in its old configuration. This is about 15 to 17 years ago. Let's see, something like that. It was in 2004, so I think it was 18 years ago. And the safety officer there was a ham, and so we got to see all the guts of it. This is back when they had the old ModuComp computers and the microwave feed lines, waveguide that went under the ground. Anyway, see you later in 5BB.
K5 ICX, KG5 JPU, and Echolink.
Yeah, go ahead, Anthony. This is KE5 ICX.
Tom, I guess you hear me now. I'm not getting out on my laptop, so I need to figure out what the issue is on there. But right now I'm on my phone operating, so I am here and listening. Over.
Well, the phone is working perfectly fine. I can hear you very well. I don't know what happened on the other part. There was no audio, but I've got you now, so be ready. You can participate in the net without any issues, and we will take into account the reaction time of Echolink, which is kind of slow.
I understand there is a lag between the RF side and the digital side, especially when people are transmitting and tailgating. But other than that, it is what it is. But I just figured I'll let you know that I wanted to see if I was able to transmit on the laptop after the net was finished, and it appears that after numerous times I wasn't getting out, and I went back over to the phone and use the app over there to see if I knew I was able to work on the phone. So other than that, that's where I am, but I'll be standing by for the second half of this evening's events. This is Kilo Golf 5 Juliet Papa Uniform.
Well, very good. We'll be looking forward to having you there. So let me transition over to the afterglow stuff. I'm going to get ready for that. And then we'll get started here in about, give it a couple of minutes, and we'll be ready. KE5ICX. All right, this is KE5ICX. I'm not done with you yet tonight. We're going to go ahead and do the Afterglow movie net now. My voice will hold out. And tonight's movie we'll be discussing is the 1970 film called Airport. It's a series that spawned a whole bunch of sequels later on. I still think the first one, released it based on the Arthur Haley's book from 1968, is actually the best of all of them. So, but because I like aviation and even improbable aviation movies, I even like to watch them. So we call this a Christmas movie because, well, there's snow. Why not, right? So maybe this is the second Christmas bus last week. Fail-safe, a Christmas movie. Anything can be a Christmas movie, especially if there's snow or nuclear fallout with nuclear snow. So snow is a part of it. So let me give you just a brief little bit about the film itself. After that, check in, and I'll ask you if you've seen the film or not, and then we'll go into the meat of the net, which is basically talking about the plot, the characterization and acting, and then finally kind of a free-for-all on music and special effects and anything else you want to mention, including anything you forgot about or something that you want to mention before we part ways. So this will be about 90 minutes long. So I'm going to start with what the film is. Airport is a 1970 American air disaster drama film written and directed by George Keaton, starring Burt Lancaster and Dean Martin, based on Arthur Haley's 1968 novel with the same name. It originated the 1970s disaster film genre. It is also the first of 4 films in the airport film series. Produced on a $10 million budget, it earned over $128 million. The film paid attention to details of a day-to-day airport and airline operations, the plot concerns the response to a paralyzing snowstorm, environmental concerns over noise pollution, and an attempt to blow up an airliner. The film is characterized by personal stories intertwining while decisions are made minute by minute by the airport and airline staff, operations and maintenance crew, flight crews, and Federal Aviation air traffic controllers. It was photographed by Ernst Lazil in 70mm. It's the last film scored by Alfred Newman. I think it's one of his best. And it was the last film roles of Van Heflin and Jesse Royce Landis. It also was Ross Hunter's last film produced for Universal after a 17-year tenure. Now on to the plot. I may have to summarize things a lot longer than I thought. The Chicago area is paralyzed by a snowstorm affecting Lincoln International Airport. Trans-Global Airlines Boeing 707 flight crew misjudged their turn from runway 29 onto the taxiway, becoming stuck in the snow and closing the runway. Airport manager Mel Bakersfield is forced to work overtime, causing tension with his wife Cindy. The divorce seems imminent, and he nurtures a closer relationship with his co-worker, TGA Customer Relations Agent Anya Livingston. Demarest is a TGA, Vernon Demarest is a TGA captain, scheduled to be a check ride captain for an airline to evaluate Captain Anson Harris during TGA Flight 2 to Rome. TGA's flagship international service, named the Golden Argosy, is being operated with a Boeing 707. Both Demarest is married to Bakerfield's sister Sarah. He is secretly having an affair with Gwen Nagan, chief stewardess on flight, who informs him before takeoff she is pregnant with a child. Yes, there is soap opera in this. Bakersfield borrows TWA mechanic Joe Petroni to assist with moving TGA's disabled plane blocking runway 29. Bakersfield and Tanya also deal with Ada Quonset, an elderly widow from San Diego who's a habitual stowaway on various airplanes. Demolition expert Dio Guerrero, down on his luck and with a history of mental illness, buys both a one-way ticket aboard TWA Flight 2 and a large life insurance policy with the intent of committing suicide by blowing up the plane. Plans to set off the bomb in an attaché case over the Atlantic Ocean with his wife Inez will collect the insurance money of $250,000. His erratic behavior at the airport, including using his last cash to buy the insurance policy and mistaking a U.S. customs officer as an airline gate agent, attracts airport officials' attention. Inez's special delivery envelope with the travel agency, and realizing Theo might be doing something desperate, goes to the airport to dissuade him. Ida Quonset manages to evade TGA employee assigned task of putting her on the flight back to Los Angeles, enchanted by the idea of a trip to Rome. She talks her way past the gate agent, boards Flight 2, and happens to sit next to Guerrero when Flight 2's crew made it aware of Guerrero's presence and possible intentions. They turn the plane back towards Chicago without informing the passengers. It is discovered. Her help is enlisted by the crew to get Guerrero's briefcase, but the ploy fails when a troublesome passenger interferes and returns the case to Guerrero. Demarest goes back into the passenger cabin, tries to persuade Guerrero to not trigger the bomb, informing him that the insurance policy has been nullified. Guerrero briefly moves to give Demarest the bomb, but then another passenger exits the laboratory and sets off the bomb, dying instantly and blowing a 3-foot hole in the fuselage. Gwen, just outside the door, is injured in the explosion and subsequent explosion decompression, but the planets retain control of the plane. With all airports east of Chicago unusable due to bad weather, Flight 2 returns to Lincoln for an emergency landing. Due to the bomb damage, Demarest demands the airport's longest runway, runway 29er, which is still closed due to stuck airliners. Bakersfield orders the plane to be pushed off the runway by snowplows, despite the costly damage that would do harm. Petroni, who was contacts qualified on 707s have been trying to move the stuck aircraft in time for damaged aircraft to land. By exceeding the 707's engine operating parameters, Tony frees the stuck plane without damage, allowing runway 29er to be reopened just in time for the 777 flight to land. As the shaken passengers exit the plane, the hysterical Inez searches in vain for her dead husband. Demer's wife sees him accompanying Glenn's stretcher as he says he'll go with her to the hospital. Bakersfield and Tanya leave together, heading to the apartment for much-needed rest and breakfast, and probably something else. In the brief epilogue, Ada is enjoying her reward of free first-class travel on DGA, but she arrives at the gate. She laments that it was much more fun the other way. The end. All right, let us begin. I will take check-in. Tonight, the movie is Airport from 1970. I will ask for your call sign, phonetically, hopefully, your name, location, and did you see the film Airport, Airport, nobody A, B, C, or D. Please come now.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill and Irving. Yes, I saw this fine film.
W5BLT, Bill Garland. Yes, I saw the fine film as well.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar.
Kilo Golf 5, Juliet Papa Uniform, Anthony and Benbrook on Echolink. And yes, I did see the movie.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto. Yes, I saw it.
November Victor 5, Fox, Virginia, in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see the movie.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey J, near Weber. I did see the movie.
All right, let's see here. Let me get everybody checked. Give me a second here. A little more pictures. Okay, I've got N5DB, Bill and Irving. Yep, he saw the film. W5BLT, Bill and Garland. He saw the film. WB5OZL, Brenda DeSoto. She saw the film. KG5JPU, Anthony. I think he said Denver. I thought he was local to Dallas. I may be wrong. He did see the film. He's on Echo Link. We'll give you extra time. NV5F, Virginia, Fort Worth. Yes, she saw the film. And J, KG5BZW near Weatherford. He also saw the film. Anyone else want to check in? Please come now with your call sign name and let me know if you saw the film.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf Cruise in Fort Worth. Saw some of the film.
Kilo Golf 5, Juliet Papa Uniform. Like to recheck. My QTH is Benbrook, Bravo, Echo November, Bravo, Romeo, Oscar, Oscar, Kilo.
Okay, very good. I've got Anthony and Benbrook, and also I've got Cruz, KI5KWG over in Fort Worth. He saw some of the movie. Boy, I can't believe he didn't see the whole thing. That was you've never seen it. It's a good film. Well, critics didn't like it, but I like it. Okay, let's see. Which direction
in the group. This is N5BB. Well, as you stated earlier, correctly, this was the start of all these big disaster movies. I mean, the Towering Inferno, the Poseidon Adventure. I mean, there's a bunch of them. And it was also one of these novels turned into a movie, which has got multiple little side threads, okay? Like the multiple infidelities by anybody associated with the airport and the flight crews. It had some big names also. I mean, I took a bunch of notes, and there's just Dean Martin and Burt Lancaster, and George Kennedy in the same movie, along with Barry Nelson and Helen Hayes and Van Heflin and Lloyd Nolan and Jacqueline Bisset. I mean, this was a who's who of actors back at that time, from young actors to older ones. All of them were well-respected actors. This is pretty heavy hitters. As far as the plot goes, it's believable. I mean, when I think about the whole movie, break. Yeah, all that occurred back then. That was before there was any TSA. That was before they checked anything. You could carry nearly anything onto an airplane, and they didn't have people checking everything. There were customs checkers, but that was people. You saw that earlier in the movie, but there weren't regular checkers for people just walking on the airplane. And you can smoke on the airplanes. It was just a different time. But this is very believable to me. And the damage to the airplane was believable. There have been episodes where sides of an airplane blew out and they successfully landed the airplane, and only one or two people died that were sucked out. So that was very believable to me. And there were people with bombs on airplanes. Some of them were caught before they, set them off, but there was a lot of worries about about skyjacking, and bombs and things like that. There were all kinds of people that were going to Cuba with skyjacking and saying they had a bomb with them or something. And so that was a believable thing also, that somebody would carry a bomb onto the airplane. Break. This is N5BB. So to me, the plot was completely believable. I think the way in which it was laid out in detail, the multiple attempts to move the aircraft and all the backup attempts and all of the radio communication and the relationships between the people, to me it was all very, very believable. I would say this is a real movie. It's not a joke. It's a real movie and a very believable plot. So I like this. I don't think I'd seen the whole movie before. I knew about this movie, and I think I'd seen little pieces of it, but I don't think I'd seen the whole thing before. So I give it a thumbs up on the plot, and it's by Arthur Healy, who was his 1968 novel. He was a heavy hitter. There are a lot of big things that he wrote back then that were made into movies. Thumbs up here, N5BB.
Well, thank you, Bill, and thank you for the synopsis there of retired. Next up is Bill, W5BLT. We have the Bill check in. Bill's Bill. So, Bill, welcome back. What did you think of the plot for Airport from 1970?
Well, I'm not as good as the first Bill there on my critique, but I will say it's always good to follow such a fine gentleman. No, in all seriousness, I loved this movie, and I agree with Bill. The plot was, to me, very believable, and you know, having talked to people about the dangers of you know, depressurizing the cabin. Yeah, it's very believable. Growing up, I do remember stories, you know, of skyjackings or hijackings of planes. I can't remember the one plane that was actually stormed. I think it was in the early 70s. And so, you know, I love the movie. There were some very comedic parts in it as well. But yet it was also very serious. One of the things that I think critics really kind of took this film apart, and yet, you know, the critics don't always decide what the public decides, thankfully, and this film did really well. It had a very long build-up here on the plot, but you got to really care about the characters. And yeah, I mean, kind of some of the ending, you know, it's predictable and things like that in some ways, but it was fun to watch, and I had to really work to watch this. My Daily Motion, the app I'd get about 20 minutes in and it just dropped the connection, and so I kept having to go back and fast forward and rewatch, and so I got to probably go through it several times, but I loved the movie. Typically, if an app were behaving like that and I got disconnected, I would just call it a day, but I kept working at this to get the whole film in. W5BLT, back to net control.
Well, thank you, Bill, and I have a feeling we're going to have a bunch of thumbs up on this because, well, there's a lot of aviation people and aviation fans who saw this film. Next up is Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda in DeSoto. You saw the film. What did you think of the plot from 85ICX?
This is WB5OZL. Oh, I love this movie. I saw it, of course, in 1970, and I liked it then, and I like it even more now. I thought the plot was perfectly believable, and I love all the little side stories. It's a little too much Peyton Place for me, but, you know, it was the time. 1970, it was a lot of that in movies and TV shows. I've never been a soap opera fan. I could have done with a whole lot less of that. And they could certainly have had some side stories with other kinds of drama that didn't involve cheating or marriages falling apart. Yeah, it's a Christmas movie. I'm buying that. I meant to ask why you thought that was a Christmas movie. Just because it has snow does not make it a Christmas movie, but that's okay. Die Hard's a Christmas movie. Let's see, what else? Plot. Well, it was a successful book, so I guess you could, you know, that's why they would want to make a movie out of it. That just makes sense. And, yeah, I didn't see any real serious plot holes. Some of the flying was a little bit stretched. Some of the things that they did and said, but you find that they've never had movies where flying is accurately depicted. Okay, I'm going to quit there. WV5OZL.
All right, thank Thank you, Brenda. And, okay, you didn't like the, well, I'll get to that part when I get to that part, because I like talking about that. Next up is Anthony, AG5JPU. He's over on Echolink. I'll give you extra time. And your comments about the plot to the 1970 film Airport, KE5ICS.
Hey, Tom, and everyone on the net. This is Anthony, KT5JPU in Benbrook. Yes, this is one of my favorite movies from childhood days. I used to love watching this movie over and over again, and I couldn't stop. I could never get enough of it. I was excited, every time this movie, they had it rebroadcasting it on TV. Just like this time of year, when I'm looking forward to watching Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer next weekend on TV. That's like, I have to watch it. But getting back to the movie, I do have to say this. Let me reset real quick. The technical aspects of the movies appear to be on to a degree, because what they were doing while they were trying to dig out the plane off the taxiway was basically correct in a sense. The airplane did not have an auxiliary power unit like newer airplanes do today, which supplies its own electrical power and air conditioning or air to start up the engine. They did have to use ground equipment to start the airplane up. And then get all that equipment out of the way before they can taxi the airplane, whether it was at a gate or out by the runway where the stuck airplane was. But yes, I can say that since working in the airline industry back many moons ago, I have seen how things have changed and but back then, yes, they didn't have security. I Googled that after the movie, and I found out that they didn't, between Congress, the FAA, and between pushback, they decided to start using metal detectors and X-ray machines at airport checkpoints back in 1974 and 75, because at one point they were getting planes hijacked on a daily basis to Cuba because people felt that wanted to go to Cuba, it was the easiest way to get to Cuba. And it just was fascinating in the article that I had read, that I had forwarded to Tom for him to read, that they even set up a place in Florida that was supposed to look like Cuba, but for hijackers thinking they were landing in Cuba, that if they didn't look out the window, they wouldn't know any better. But since they had windows on the airplane, they decided to pull the plug on that idea because people would know that this wasn't Cuba. Other than that, I think the movie was great. It was the original of all the airport movies back in the 70s. And I enjoyed every one of them, basically, more or less. But I want to say it was a good watch. This is Kilo Golf 5 Juliet Papa Uniform, back to net control.
Very good. Thank you, Anthony, and thanks for checking in on this net. I hope you'll continue to do so. Those are interesting comments, and being in the industry, know things we don't know. Next is Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, what did you think of Airport 1912? Airport, which came out in 1970. You gotta be careful because there's actual numbers to the years to these movies now. Mess things up. So go ahead. What did you think?
K5ICX, and the net is NV5F. Well, I thought this movie was, it was easy to watch, it was fun to watch, it was a little silly, it was, it definitely is interesting to me that it kind of sparked a genre. I do remember when I was young watching these kinds of movies when they used to have, the ABC movie of the week or whatever. Every so often it would be some kind of airplane disaster movie, and I remember always being interested in these kind of movies. In fact, I'm sure I saw a couple of the original airport movies, and I'm prompted now to go back and maybe watch the rest of them, watch all the sequels. I joked when we were watching it last night that it was almost like a night at the airport in real time. The setup was so long. I mean, it's supposed to be this disaster. You could tell, you just feel that mood, like, oh, there's something, something is going to happen. Somebody's going to, try to blow up an airplane, or it's going to be something scary at 30,000 feet or whatever. But the setup is so long, and I think they were trying to just show what that culture is, of people working at the airport, and kind of a quote unquote typical but atypical night at the airport. I did think it was funny that in that blizzard of continuously falling torrents of snowflakes that they kept the airport open. I thought that was pretty incredible. That would, just like a fraction of that much snow would close us down here in DFW. I thought that some of the plots, it was all in one night, so they had to squeeze all the issues in. And, they had the people protesting the noise off of runway 29 or whatever in the snow, in the middle of the night. They're picketing the airport. I thought that was kind of laughable. The plot with the little old lady being a stowaway was pretty funny, but I'm sure that with the lack of security and the way things used to run, that kind of stuff, if they're hijacking planes to Cuba every day, surely there's going to be some stowaways on airplanes. My memory of flying when I was young was after all the metal detectors, but that was about all we had. It was metal detectors, and they were looking for guns and bombs. That was the main thing. My memories are of flights in the 80s being hijacked to the Middle East. That was a big thing. People in the Middle East hijacking airplanes to, Lebanon and countries in the Middle East. My question is why anyone would want to go to Cuba that bad, unless they believe the press that it really was the workers' paradise. I'm trying to figure why anyone would want to go there that badly. So I do not remember the days when you could just saunter into an airport and walk around anywhere in the airport you wanted to, with or without a ticket. So it's interesting to me as just educational and of a time that I don't remember, and I thought that was interesting. I'm with Brenda, all the cheating and stuff. I know that kind of stuff goes on. I'm sure it was going on then. That was a little bit much. It's like you want to like this guy, Dean Martin, the pilot. You want to like him because he's Dean Martin, but then you find out that he's, got some flight attendant pregnant, and then they had an actual sort of kind of political, moral sort of moment there. It was a pre-Roe v. Wade moment when they were talking about her, being pregnant and what she was going to do about it. I thought the airplane sets were interesting. They have to make movie sets bigger than real life so they can fit all the equipment in them, and I love the gigantic, cockpits that they were flying in, and the fact that it never did stop snowing all night long, and it just snowed, and somehow they were getting planes out of the airport, and some of it was, a little bit unrealistic, but overall I found it pleasant and enjoyable, and just a fun sort of, blast from the past and a little bit of a cross-section of the time and the way air travel was. People used to dress up. I remember when I was young, really little, and mom put me and my sister on a plane from New Orleans to DFW to come back here and visit our dad, and man, she dressed us up. We were all frilly and girly, and that was what you did back then. You dressed up to get on the airplane. So I thought that was kind of cool that they, and then they talked about how congested air travel is at this day and age, and I was like, man, those people would wig if they saw how many people we move through an airport now. It's nuts. And there's tons of security, and people are, it's almost like riding the bus. There's just so many people, and everybody seems to think they have to bring everything they own on an airplane with them now. So it was kind of a slow-paced, fun to watch, not hard to watch. Even the disaster part with the guy and the bomb, it wasn't as intense and edgy and psychological and freaky as things are now. It was a lot more palatable, and definitely had some attempt at realism in how they portrayed just running an airport, the day-to-day, night-to-night, all night long details. I thought it was interesting, and it was fun to watch with friends. So anyway, I could go on and on. KE5ICX in the net into V5S.
All right, thank you, Virginia, and I don't disagree. I think that we're going down memory lane here, which is fine by me. I like talking about stuff like this, so I will keep quiet till the very end when it's my turn. Next, Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, your thoughts on the plot for Airport from KE556.
This is KG5BZW. Let's see. No, it was an enjoyable film. A little side point. I'm pretty sure I have seen this film before, and it's kind of funny to me that this was not the most memorable one, but then when this was films like this were often on, I think the one that I always remember is the fourth one because it has the Concorde, and as a kid, there's a lot of adult topics in this film, and as a kid, I was so interested in adult topics, but supersonic airliner, yeah, that's cool. But no, I think I wonder how many of them I actually have seen, because I do remember the snow issue thing. I have this vague recollection of the event. Trying to get the airplane off the runway and all of that. I'm sure I kind of mix up a few of the films in my memory here, because after all, what's funny is I didn't even realize this was a whole series of films. I just remembered the Concorde one, and then there were some other ones that were kind of related or something, but I don't know if they ever registered to me that they were actually part of the same thing. Anyway, I took a little too long on that. As far as running the airport, I mean, I'm no expert at that, but it did seem to, it seems fairly realistic for what little I know. I'm kind of curious. There's aspects that Hollywood likes to, or I hate to use the term Hollywood because it really relates to any film production. It's not strictly a Hollywood thing. It's just a Hollywood films, and having the captain do all these things. I mean, after all, it is Dean Martin. He has to be involved, and I have some doubts that the captain would be that involved in everything. But granted, I don't know how a airline captain in facilities would handle things. I really don't know. It might be more real than I realize. Other aspects. I do have some doubts. Also, again, me not being an expert at demolitions or anything, that as depicted, that seems to be a little bit more explosive than I would think that explosive would do. But again, I'm like, I only experience and understanding that is watching the Mythbusters. So I just maybe it is pretty realistic. After all, you did have the structural damage that wasn't quite visible, but definitely how to explain. It's like a structural beam or whatever is broken, but you can't see the broken beam, but you can see the evidence of the interior skin moving against each other. So maybe that was pretty realistic. I don't know. I enjoyed watching that. I guess I'm going to leave it at that. KG5 is doing.
All right, thank you, Jay. Next up is Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, you only saw part of the film. Why? And which part did you see? And what did you think about it, at least plot-wise?
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf. I saw all of it in 1970, sitting in a theater with my father. He always took me to the good movies. And I remember enjoying it. And I know how it ended as far as a 10-year-old knows how it ended, with George Kennedy hustling that thing off with brute force off the runway. But I don't remember much of anything else. I kept getting distracted. I gave this movie 3 times to get through it, and I had trouble with the app, and then I would get distracted by something else, and so I couldn't finish it this time. As an adult, I was fascinated because I had no recollection of the moral problems going on. I don't remember any of that in the movie. And the troubled marriages and well, all of that. I think it's been referred to as soap operas several times. So I really want to go back and finish it, but I just didn't have time before tonight to do that. But I enjoyed the film, and I'm interested listening to what you all have to say. That's what I've got. Back to Nat.
Well, thank you, Cruz. And I've got you at the bottom of the list. I'll go ahead and ask if there's anyone else out there who would like to join us. We are talking about the movie Airport from 1970. One of the first, or if not the first, of the disaster films that graced the theaters in the 1970s. If you'd like to join us, even if you haven't seen the film, that's okay. I need your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from if you'd like, and then also, did you see the film Airport? Please come now.
Kilo Bravo
Sierra Oscar Kilo. Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this film.
Kilo Golf 5, Juliet, Pioneer, I'd like to recheck with some more
Spots for airport, so go right ahead with your thoughts.
Yeah, this is KB9S, okay. Tom, you had somebody there double with you, I think was trying to break in there.
Oh, okay. Well, there was another braking station. Maybe you were checking in or you had a comment. Please come again.
Kilo Golf 5, Juliet, Papa Uniform. I'd like to recheck with some more comments regarding the movie on Nickelwick.
Okay. Well, what we found, Anthony, is when we do this, we tried to do kind of a free-for-all on the thing, and it just got really, really difficult. So what we did is we just took everybody in order, and when it gets to your turn, you can talk about anything you want. If the next topic is the characterizations, but if you have other things to say, maybe in response to anybody else, you can use that time for that as well. So I'll hold your comments for now. You are number 4 on the list, so when we go through cycle through the list again, we'll get you then. So it's just the best way we've tried. We've been doing this for 6, 7 years now, and that one's the best. If that's okay with you, Anthony, unless you got something really urgent you want to tell us. Okay, very good. I see on the back channel there you're okay with that. So let's go ahead with Sean, KB9SOK. What do you think about the plot for airport?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, like everybody else, I enjoyed this very much. It was very much, it seemed like a splash from the past. Even some of those stuff that goes on, when traveling, really kind of forgot about. The first time I ever got to fly was in 1985. I remember it very well. And so I never got to fly back in the 70s. So I wasn't quite sure I was like 10, but even in the 80s, we still had some of that. I even totally forgot that you could even buy insurance. That was definitely, maybe you still can today, but I totally forgot about that. I was like, oh yeah, I guess you could do that back then, because people were so worried about flying, and in those days, it's not surprising that this movie did well, because especially in the 70s when flying was becoming so popular, and it was still exciting, and it was still kind of new to some extent to be able to get around it all over the world as easily as you could. So yeah, it was definitely kind of cool to kind of see that again. And so yeah, the plot really was kind of 3 plots in one. In some ways, I guess it did help keep the story flowing, but in some ways, it almost drug this movie out too long. Obviously, as everybody's talked about, we had the relationships, and even to the point, they were even discussing abortion, and then we had the, obviously the guy running the airport, and he was basically married to his job, and we all probably know people that are like that just love their job so much that they just spend all their time there and not really at home, and so they were even kind of covering that, and then the second story was really just about running an airport, which is obviously just dealing with all the day-to-day things that are going on, and obviously keeping all the airlines happy and keeping the passengers happy and keeping them safe. And I'd seen a special about 7 or 8 years ago about running a small to mid-sized airport, and they went through the day-to-day of what was involved in that. And it's just, the amount of stuff you got to deal with on a daily basis, there is a lot, and it's all obviously, very time-sensitive and trying to keep everything moving. And then obviously you're dealing with all the different regulations from, of course, the FAA and just everything. So, Yeah, it's quite the task to keep an airport going. And then, obviously, which was, the third story, which I don't know if you could even argue that it was really even almost the main story, because it really didn't come into play to the second half of the movie, which is obviously the guy, kind of as a last resort trying to give his wife the life that she wanted by blowing up an airplane, which is, kind of crazy, which I guess the guy was crazy. He came from a mental hospital, I guess, at one point. So, to risk other people's lives just to make his wife's life comfortable, I kind of agree with Jay. I think it was Jay who made the comment that I would think that a single stick of dynamite would have done a lot more damage than that. But as far as, what seemed typically realistic, I'd say most of it, did seem pretty, felt pretty good the way they done it and how they handled it. And, it did just feel, like this really could have been a day, in that era. So it overall was just very enjoyable, and obviously there was, even though there was time it was a little bit slow, I still very much enjoyed this a lot. And and obviously a lot of times we complain about lack of any kind of story, and this definitely had a lot of story. So obviously we'll get that more next round as far as the characters go. But there's a few little things that I think they could have maybe done without, just like, when the pilot was wearing the air mask, when, there's only one pilot in the front, and that's something I didn't even know they did, back then. But just little things like that, but I know they were just trying to make it feel real, and so in one way it made sense that they added that, because they wanted to make it feel like he was really, there in the situation. So, yeah, very good movie. I'll send it back to you, Tom. Thanks. KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. And I think mostly we've got all thumbs up on this one, which is interesting. This is a little fence sitting with Jay, but everybody else kind of liked it. But I haven't given my comments yet. Anyone else want to join us before I unleash with my comments? Please come with your call, your name, where you're transmitting from, and did you see Airport, the movie? All right. Some of the things I liked about this film, and Alex Haley has a tendency to be kind of technical in his films, and that's fine by me. Or not in his films, but in his books, and that carried over into the film, I thought. I really enjoyed it. The technical pieces to it were pretty accurate. The handoffs that they were doing from Cleveland Center to Chicago Center, and from Toronto Center are logical and truthful. That would be what you would expect. So I thought that was pretty cool. The way the operations ran back then, absolutely. I love the front and aft jetways they used to get on the aircraft. That was something that was popular in the 60s. And it would take up, what would eventually be 2 gates, so you don't do that anymore. I thought the dialogue about congestion and that was a bit heavy-handed. That's to be expected, I guess. It kind of reminded me of watching an episode of Dragnet, that we had to be told a little bit about. We had to be told exactly what should happen and why and all that. So it was a little heavy-handed in that way. But I forgave all that simply because I loved seeing all the aircraft, and the way they operated. Everything else seemed very realistic to me. The de-icing of the runways and all that. Some of the things with the planes and pulling them out. I just enjoyed that. And the 707, of course, can do everything but read. Which is a good thing, apparently, in this film, as we found out. Joe Petroni, everybody loves Joe. He's that mechanic Wonder Child, Wonder Man, who could fix anything. In the book, when they had the problem with the getting to the airport because jackknife truck, of course, he gets out of the car and helps him get the jackknife truck out of the way. So there's that. Security was mentioned too, that there was none, and I remember I used to go to the airport when we got wheels, my friend Mike Hess and I would go out to the airport, and we place we could go. We weren't old enough. We were, what was I, 16, 17 at the time. So we could go out to the airport, the DTW, and found a place where you could park in the employee parking for free. That was good. And we went in a side door that there was no security or anything back then. You walked in, it was where the luggage was being unloaded, and you go right up to the gates. We walk around and watch people see each other and reconnect and all of that. And it was great fun, and of course that was that Jet A fuel you could smell everywhere. That smell has gone away. I don't smell it at the airport. It meant a trip to me, and it's always been kind of in my mind that way whenever I smelled it. Getting on the airplane without a ticket, entirely possible. I had a situation like that where I actually flew on a ticket segment that wasn't even wasn't on the right segment. I had come back from Brazil and on United, landed in Chicago O'Hare, got on a plane to go visit my parents in Indianapolis at the time. I had a final segment that took me from Chicago to Dallas, and I made the reservation to do that side trip, but they never issued the ticket. They just went ahead and used the final segment, and I was out of tickets when I got to the airport. So they had to reissue it because in those days the ticket itself was more important than the reservation. They got it straightened out. It took a little bit of time. But it was cool because I got to fly first class to see my parents, which was nice because I was the first guy off the airplane. That impressed them. Let's see, what else? One thing, too, you mentioned about people dressing up to get on airplanes. That was very true, but there were limitations. You could dress up, but women had to wear low, flat heels. They could not wear high heels because they thought that they would get caught in any sort of planking or walkways and things like that. It was a hazard, so you could not do that. Of course, everything else wasn't required that you dress up, but of course everybody did. Just like you went out for dinner, you dressed up. Or you went to the theater to see airport, you dressed up. When you got on an airplane, you dressed up. So it was kind of interesting seeing that. And of course, my final thing that I really enjoyed, it's not really plot-driven, but it is seen in the film, all those nifty older aircraft in their classic liveries, like Continental in the red and white. I love that. Well, the Western Airlines, they had their new livery. They moved from the Indian Head to the W at that point. What else? There was a couple of others there, including some classic planes as well. Electra was there. I just loved it. Okay, I'll stop. All right, we're going to go to the top of the list again, and this time we're going to be talking about characterization. We had an all-star cast. Tell us what you think about that. If you got any comments from the previous round, you can do it then as well. So we'll start with Bill, N5BB. Your thoughts about characterization and the acting on Airport.
Yes, this is N5BB. Well, I took notes, Tom, with the actors' names. So I'm going to quickly run through these just to remind everybody. Burt Lancaster, big star, was Mel Bakersfield, who was the airport manager. He was the hero in the whole thing, kind of. Well, I say the hero. He was the main central character. Some other people were auxiliary central characters. And his wife was Barbara Hale. Remember from the assistant of Perry Mason? And it was very sad right there in the last scene at the airport. He's getting off the airplane with his mistress, and she's left there and not even getting any attention at all. Just completely ignores her going to the hospital with this other lady. So I felt sorry for her. Dean Martin as Vernon Demarest. Dean Martin, you may have thought of as a comic actor who sometimes acted a little drunk or goofy, or in all these comedies with Jerry Lewis and many other comedies. But he also was a pretty darn good actor. He played this very straight. And, you know, when I look at this, he came across as a pretty good actor in this. I really enjoyed the whole, you know, performance he gave as somebody that started off looking a little bit like a womanizer guy, and at the end, he looked like a, you know, pretty good guy. In fact, I think I'm missing, I think Barbara Hale was his wife. Isn't that right? I'm missing who was whose wife. I think Barbara Hale, yeah, that's right. Barbara Hale was his wife, was Dean Martin's wife in this. That's what it was. Okay. And then George Kennedy. He played a lot of this kind of movie back then. And Joe Petroni, he knew how to chomp on a cigar and be the action guy and everything. Really good characterization there, if you ask me. Jean Seberg, who was a moderately successful actress, not super popular, but she was in a number of things. She was Tanya Livingston. Yeah, she was the head customer relations agent for TGA, and it appeared the future mistress of Berta Lancaster, Mr. Bankersfield. I think that was fine also. Helen Hayes, the elderly stowaway, as Ada Quonset. Wasn't she just amazing? I mean, she didn't overplay it. She played it just to the limit where it was appearing to be a little bit over the edge, but she didn't quite fall over the edge. So I thought that was excellent characterization there and casting. This is in 5BB. You had Van Heflin, who is he played in all kinds of things, war movies and many other things. I think this is his last real movie. And he was the bomber. And, you know, he was just a worried guy. Thought that was great. Maureen Stapleton, his wife, wasn't she amazing in this? She was just so broken down by all this and couldn't talk in part of it. I loved her acting in this. You know, when I look at that, in one sense it was kind of a simple part. She didn't have too much to say, but you could see so much in her face and her body language and how she moved. This is in 5BB. Barry Nelson, he played himself. He was the pilot, and that was just the standard character you expect to see him playing. Lloyd Nolan, you may recognize that guy. Who was that? He was the head of the Customs Service, Harry Standish, and his niece, I think, a relative of his, I think his niece was on the airplane. That was also good casting. And then Jacqueline Bisset, the chief stewardess, the mistress of Demarest, Dean Martin, and that's right. That was okay. That's right. Barbara Hale was with Burt Lancaster, his wife, and no. Well, I'm getting confused now. But anyway, Jacqueline Bisset, I thought, was good characterization there. She was a young actress who was getting in all these juicy things. Anyway, I thought the characterization was great, as you could hear by my going through all these people. I don't think they could have picked any better actors from the time. And these are all, you know, major known people. I mean, when you looked at this whole movie, very few movies had this many big names in the movie. So this is a blockbuster. That's all I got in 5BB.
Thank you, Bill. Next up is the other Bill, W5DLC. Bill, your thoughts on characterization or anything else you want to add to this conversation? Go ahead. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, you know, the the character Helen Hayes with that played Ada in this movie, I think actually makes this movie for me. I loved her. Just how she was describing how she got on airplanes and things like that. And of course, I remember. Let's see, I probably would have been 5 in 1974, maybe. And when we took my dad, he was going out to Minnesota, Minneapolis, on a business trip. And I just remember going through the airport. We could go right up to the window. I actually touched the window. The plane took off. You could air take off. I mean, you just walked in. No line at all. You just walked in. It was just and I remember some longer lines, before 9/11, but still, you could just pretty much just. I mean, it was. But back in the 70s, it's kind of a free-for-all. Of course, I liked the character for George Kennedy as Joe Petrone, or Petrone. I love that. I don't have probably time to go through all these characters, but some of them, some of these people that were in it it was kind of their last film. One thing that I thought was interesting as I was looking through trivia is that the Universal Studio would have actors on hand to do voiceovers and stuff. They always had some people that were there I guess at the lot where they did the movies that were on reserve and to do quick roles and things like that. And one of the ladies, and I'd have to scroll down, I'm sorry, but the stewardesses that was portrayed here actually was used in promotional materials and things like that by the airlines, which I thought was fascinating as well. And it was just a different time, but I thought they did the characterization as well with the conflict between work and family and marriage, and divorce was becoming a much bigger thing, I think, back in the 70s, and obviously like it is now. And there was just this, they had I think a good portrayal of the work, guy absorbed by work and family members wanting more time. So I thought it was interesting when the character, I think it was Petrone, said, tell him to move it himself at the end as he was going, I guess, home. So anyway, that's all I got. W5BLT.
Thank you, Bill. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Your thoughts on characterization acting in the film Airport from 1970?
This is WB50ZL. Well, I will say this is a perfect profile of 1970, just the culture in general. And, the characters are very, very much in line with what our society was like at the time. Especially the airline culture with the pilots and the stewardesses and the baggage handlers and all that. It was fairly rigid, regimented. You didn't have female pilots or male flight attendants, and and pilots were a certain type of person, strong male type. So, it's an interesting reflection. You talk about people dressing up. One thing I loved in the late 60s, I was in college, and with Braniff, you could fly standby for $15 round trip to, at another to another Texas city. I was in Austin, and I did several of those. It was just like the best deal in the world to be able to fly somewhere for so little money. And they had good food, but what was really fun was watching the flight attendants, stewardesses, change clothes mid-flight. They had outfits that where they could rearrange things like reversible skirts that they would change, or they would a wrap skirt, they would take it off and just have a top and slacks. And it was just so much fun to watch and see what they were going to do next. And by the way, the Frontiers of Flight Museum has a big collection of brand of flight attendant uniforms. They're distinct. They're colorful, and just not like anything else. We had come from the very conservative, business-like stewardess outfits, and into the wild 60s, 70s. Psychedelic colors is the only thing I could say. It was fun. It ushered in a new era of flying where things were no longer so conservative but wild and crazy. I liked it. All right. Well, that's not much about characterization. That's been covered so well already. I don't have anything to add to what's already been said. WB50ZL.
Thank you, Brenda. This is KE5ICX. This is the Afterglow Movie Network talking about Airport from 1970. Next up is Anthony, KG5JPU. Anthony, tell us what you think about characterization. I think you had some comments about comments. You can do both if you'd like from KE5ICX. KG5JPU, are you out there? You are next.
Kilo Golf 5 Juliet Uniform. I thought I was transmitting. I guess I didn't wait for the repeater to stop before I was able to connect. But as I was trying to say, yes, a lot of people that were talking about earlier regarding the movie are correct. You know, I remember when I was working for the airlines back in the day, and it could be very stressful. Whatever industry you work for, on marriages and relationships and this and that and the other thing, because a lot of times you wanted to take off, and if your regular day to work was on a holiday, and you weren't lucky enough to be able to get off because you never had seniority, you were forced to work, and it is nature of the beast. But the other thing that I also realized thinking about it, I don't know if they even talked about, they didn't show the planes being de-iced in the movie. I understand that they had the engines running at the gate, that's perfectly correct, because at the time that airplane does not have an auxiliary power unit where it was able to start up with its own power and air to start the engines up. You had to use ground power units for power and air start trucks to use air to start the jet engines up. And if you were sitting there on the ramp with the engines running for a while, you were burning up fuel. So that's why, you know, the captain, or I should say the co-pilot, was making a big thing to the ramp supervisor regarding that, because they were running engines, burning fuel. The other thing that I realized was that Vernon Demarest was the captain checking out the captain that was flying the airplane. and he decided that he wanted to leave the right seat and go to the back of the airplane to be with the injured flight attendant that he was in love with that was pregnant. And in reality, how can somebody that was check riding a captain be able to do that if he was, and have, but there were a lot of things. I understand it's a movie, and Hollywood has their own ideas about doing things. But other than that, I don't know if you want to, in the future, do the other movies or in series somewhere down the road and compare one movie from the next. But I think you have something going here, Tom, and I think you've made a good choice. With that, I will give it back to Net Control. This is Kilo Golf 5 Juliet Papa Uniform.
Well, thank you, Anthony. And yes, I did make this choice. All the bad films are chosen by Brenda, and all the good films are chosen by me. It's just the way it works out. Okay, next up is Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, your thoughts on characterization, acting, and or anything else that's been said already. Please go ahead from KE5ICX.
KE5ICX, NV5F. Okay. Well, I liked Bill's rundown of all the actors and the characters they played. It was pretty much an all-star cast, well-known people, good actors and actresses. I found the characters pretty likable, even when they were doing things that weren't so likable. The 70s, early 70s to me is like kind of a transitionary period where the style of acting is starting to change from the sort of, you have that kind of crisp style and dialogue and kind of a stylized way of acting. Even you can tell that everybody's kind of got dialect coaching and stuff, and this movie is still in that period where you're still kind of in that era where there's still that quality, that crisp quality of the acting, and it's kind of larger than life. It's not quite real, but it's just the style, and it's something that I have to remember when I'm watching a movie like this, so I don't just pan the acting, because it was just a different style, and the way drama was portrayed, like the life of the distraught guy with the bomb. That was the style, just that drama, and I thought that was played out pretty well. Nowadays, it would be so edgy and intense that it would be something I could probably even stand to watch now. I like that this is played a little more broad. I do have to comment on Dean Martin. He is very likable and very comedic in most of his roles. He was not as believable as I kind of wanted someone to be as the captain of the airplane. He's just Dean Martin. I because of my eyesight, I don't immediately recognize actors, especially on a small screen. I was watching this on my laptop, and the thing I recognized, the way I knew it was Dean Martin, because I wasn't reading the credits. We were all messaging and stuff right then, and I knew his voice, and I was like, well, I know that voice, and he sounds like a Rat Pack crooner. He sounds like he's always about to tell a joke or burst into song, no matter what scene he was in this, and I mean, and I think they picked him well as a good casting choice, because if you're going to have kind of a philandering pilot and you want people to at least like him, get Dean Martin to do it. And he is very likable, and he was very believable as his personality, kind of got them through that disaster, and he kind of kept a level head and kept everybody else sort of calm and collected during that disaster, or potential disaster, which did turn out to be a real disaster. I like how it started with them discovering that Mrs. Quonset was on the airplane. They figured out she was she had gotten away from security and was a stowaway, and I liked how he just flippantly called her, go back there and see if you can find that old biddy. He just rattled that off in proper Dean Martin fashion. It was really funny. There were some really funny moments in this. The comic relief of the priest, like, punching the guy or whatever, he, kind of that guy won't calm down, and you can see how some of this ended up in movies like Airplane, in the 80s, just those moments that carried over the stereotypes, and I thought that they were played pretty well, and pretty likable people. The never say die mechanic who gets the airplane off the runway, and the concerned airport manager, and even just down to the desk personnel and the lady selling the insurance. It was all played very crisply and believably. And Tom, it's funny you talked about going to hang out at the airport, because when we were talking about this in the first segment, it occurred to me, back then you could just go over to the airport and just walk around, go look at airplanes and go see people getting on and off airplanes. And I guess if you were really bored, you could try to stow away on an airplane. And then to hear you say you used to just go out and hang out at the airport, good place to people watch. So anyway, overall, I thought it was pretty good. Acting was pretty good. Characters were likable, believable. They suited the style of the day, and even just a little scene about the lady getting caught at customs smuggling in, high dollar items without paying taxes on them, and those things are covered in movies like the movie Terminal with Tom Hanks. It's one of my favorite airport movies, and they cover the mundane, day-to-day, airport things pretty well in that movie too. I like kind of like the, just the airport genre, I guess. It's just kind of interesting. So anyway, I'll be quiet now, and I'll turn it back to Net K5ICX NZ5F.
Well, thank you, Virginia. No, this is a fun discussion. I'm enjoying the heck out of it. So everybody can say as much as they want. I'm fine with it. KG5BZWJ, your thoughts on characterization, the acting, that sort of thing, from KE5ICX.
This is KG5BZW. I think others have covered the actual human actors. So I do have to walk back one thing I said earlier. I had forgotten that the Martin's character was actually the oh shoot, I was got a brain fart here. That he was the examiner or practitioner. Except for it's not exam, it's just I forgot the term that they used for the other captain. So I guess Dean Martin would have been theoretically more able to do certain things, although that's presuming it's we've gone beyond condition normal, and like okay, we gotta do some investigating and whatnot, and hey, we got a spare captain, so okay, that does actually make more sense. But anyway, the other thing I really wanted to say was, oh my goodness, the if it worked, if they were, you could kind of all combine it into one thing. I'm kind of using the term character, but smoking was such a part of this. Wow, it's I forgot how common smoking was in that era. I mean, I wasn't even alive for most of that era, but I don't know. I think the first I actually went actually used. They denied smoking because it was a long flight. It had it been intercontinental, not intracontinental. Yeah, intercontinental. If it'd been city to city, I think it might have been allowed when I went, but because it was like a 7-hour flight to Hawaii or something, I don't think it was allowed. But it's just the whole idea of being stuck in a little tube with all these people smoking is just. I mean, I get the thing of why people have like smoking and heck out all of them at once. I've smoked a couple of cigars, but I just oh my goodness. It's one thing to have be in the breezeway and smoke a cigar, and another to be stuck with that smoke for hours. Although I guess I'm sure that they have air filtration and it's not really truly stuck in there so much as well, there's always an intake. And I hope some sort of exhaust of that. Cause, oh my goodness. Anyway, I really don't have anything to say on the actors. Although I did the other thing I did. I was the old lady that stowaway. Apparently. I read on the wiki, she actually got an Academy Award for that. You must have misread. So no, this film had some, definitely had the people that liked it. Anyway, back to the KG553.
All right, thank you, Jay. And just to remind everyone, the repeater has returned to normal use at midnight, so you may have to drop carrier a couple of times when you're speaking so it doesn't time out the repeater. During the net, it allows continuous conversation for quite a while, but in this case, I think you can go 3 minutes and then it cuts you out, turns the repeater off for about 2 minutes, and then it comes back on, so you don't want to do that. Next up is Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, what do you think about the characterization and acting in airports?
KI5KWG. Interesting how, in listening to the comments, Dean Martin basically starred in this, and Burt Lancaster barely mentioned by us. And I think that's kind of fitting. I'll jump on that Dean Martin fan club and then be done with my comments. If you want to see Dean Martin in a dramatic role, all serious, and absolutely doing an outstanding job, see him play the role of Bama in Some Came Running, Minnelli's film version of the James Jones novel, and he just absolutely nails the character exactly as written, but does it on film, and it's splendid. So that's what I've got for y'all. KI5KWG, back to net.
All right, right. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks for your comments this evening. Next is Sean, KB9SOK. Your thoughts on characterization?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I think it's been pretty well said. This was a really solid cast. Even, like I said, even down to the customs agent. They did a good job of, you got to feel for who that person was, even in a short period of time. And it was well acted all the way around. This was just a really solid cast. And this may be kind of an unpopular comment, but I'm not particularly a Dean Martin fan. I don't usually care for him in most things, but I liked him in this one. So in a way, I guess it is a compliment, because typically I don't like him in a lot of films, but this I actually liked. So yeah, it was just solid all the way around. Kind of somewhat of a plot, also character. You know, obviously everybody loved the little old lady, and I did as well. She's one of my favorite characters in this, just because it's kind of fun. But what I like in this film is that they took the time to truly set it up. I mean, they went through a lot of trouble to tell you about, her technique for sneaking on and why she was on that plane, just so they would have a way to basically get to the guy at the case, 3/4 of the way through the movie. Today's films, seem a lot of them would have just, had some generic excuse to call her out instead of, going through the trouble to really set it up. So it's kind of nice that they took the time to truly put this plot together and make it flow like it should. But yeah, it was just very, all the characters, even some of them were short, you felt like you knew them in that short period of time. So just really well done. I won't repeat what a lot of others says. We're getting here late. Back to net, KB9SOK.
Thank you, Sean. I'm going to make my comments short, and then we'll do a final round with volunteers. I found it very interesting, like the characters. Again, part of the dialogue kind of was forced, I thought, through the whole thing. But overall, the acting itself was fantastic. I love the characters. Characters that were selected, and a cast of stars, luminaries, and all that. That was fun. So I guess I can't add any more than that as far as the acting is concerned. Some of and I did mention this on the first round, some of the lingo kind of took you out, like the 555-1212 phone number on the telephone, in the telephone booth, or on the regular phone. Every time they started talking excessive airline lingo, I knew they were trying to smooth the audience, and it kind of took me out of the moment. But other than that, I thought it was a lot of fun. All right, this is what we're going to do. There is an optional third round here, in that I won't go down the list. I will ask you if you have any final comments. So if you would like to bring any final comments, the third round has typically been talking about music or special effects or anything like that. You can indeed do that, or any other additional comments that you want to make. Either or, it doesn't matter. I will take you in the order that you give the call sign. So come now if you've got any final comments for tonight. Moving in.
W5BLT, Bill.
N5BB, Bill.
We'll go 5, Juliet, Papa uniform.
Okay, we got 3, so we'll start with Bill, W5BLT. Go ahead with your comments.
Couple things. In the beginning, they had to use fake snow until an actual snowstorm did hit the airport where they were filming. The exterior in the airport today is, I think, still the same. So that's my visual comments from a blind guy. Dean Martin received 10% from the film's gross. He got $7 million additional on his salary. And Burt Lancaster said it was the worst piece of junk ever made. He did it because he wanted the studio to finance several films that he was interested in. Based on actual events, It was a Continental Airlines plane, first domestic incident in Chicago. It was blown up in 1962. Thomas Doty, and he was trying to get his wife and daughter insurance check, and when that was found out, they were told they could not collect, and she got a $3 refund. So anyway, I just thought those kinds of things were interesting. The other quick thing, very few films earn an Academy Award that are G-rated. Oliver, Funny Girl, Fiddler on the Roof, Sound of Beauty and the Beast, and Babe, and Toy Story 3. So there's not a lot of G-rated movies, which I thought this was interesting. And then my final comment is the stewardess I was thinking of, Patty Polson, played Joan in the movie. She got a winner on a beauty contest, and one of the prizes was a role in this film. So I just thought those things were interesting. I was just looking at trivia and different things. I thought those were things interesting. And anyway, I also loved the music, the theme song at the beginning. That's all I got. Thank you, everybody, as always. W5BLT.
Very good. Thank you, Bill, and thank you for your comments. I enjoyed them very much. Next is the other Bill, N5BB from the Mirror Universe. Bill, your final comments.
Yes, Tom. This is N5BB. Several things. Number one, Ada Quanstead, what a character. Did you notice that there in the last scenes of the movie, she was trying to steal the coat from another woman passenger? And she handed it over with kind of a shrug of her shoulders. So she was kind of, that was her character. It was kind of interesting that she was a bad behavior. I got some quotes from her, from Ada. My late husband played the violin, not professionally, but he was very good. He once played the minute waltz in 58 seconds. Have you ever been a stowaway on any other airline? Oh, yes, but I like Transglobal the best. And then when you get older, there isn't a lot to be frightened of. That's when they asked her if she was frightened of anything. So here's another quote from Ada. My late husband taught me to be thorough. He was a teacher of geometry. He always said, you must consider every angle. Oh, my. Anyway, I thought this was just so funny. There's a little, it wasn't a comic movie, but she was the comic interest in all of this, and she played it up just perfectly. One other comment was special effects. It's 1970. This is kind of, early kind of special effects things, more like the original Star Trek things, not really fancy ones. And but I thought these were reasonably good. I saw one scene where they finally took the airplane off, and it was taking off through the clouds. And I don't know if that was a real shot or a special effect, but either way it was done, it looked great. And there were other scenes in there where they were landing and the lights and everything. I thought they looked fine for a 1970 movie, and I thought the inside of the airplane was very believable. Everything about it. So, I was pretty happy with the production values for a movie in 1970. And that's all I got, N5BB. Good night. And don't forget the Artemis 1's landing tomorrow morning inside BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. Thanks for your contributions tonight. And last but not least, I have some parting comments, but next is Anthony, KG5JPU. Anthony, what do you got for us?
Thank you, Tom. And adding to what Bill said, N5BB, Ada Quantum did have at the end of the movie, where she's finally going back to her family, I believe, where she came from. They asked her when she had a ticket, are we flying, what was it, economy or first class? And she said, first class. But she preferred to fly the other way as she would fly. And that's comical. The other thing that I want to say is there's actually two more things. One was, back in the day, flight attendants were almost like pin-up models or whatever. They had no ounce of fat on them, and they had a figure that they had to hold true, and if they didn't hold true, they were out of a job because they were getting weighed mostly on a daily basis, and if they found, added weight, that affects their performance and everything else. And the last thing is, we talk about stowaways. There are still stowaways today, especially out of third world countries that are coming trying to get to this country, and they climb over the airport fence, perimeter fence, and they try to sneak on to an airplane and trying to hide in a wheel well, whether it's the main gear or the nose wheel well. And a lot of times, if they don't get crushed, they will freeze to death when the plane is up in altitude because that area is not pressurized, and so they're going to freeze. And most of the time, they may pull out when the gear extends, so they may not even make it to the final destination what they're trying to do, or if they land, they're seriously injured or whatever, and it's just very sad, but people have to, are desperate to get out. And the other sad thing about it is, and you can relate to what happened in Afghanistan about a year or so ago with the Afghanistanians trying on the ramp of the airport, trying to get on the airplanes and trying to leave, and they're trying to get onto the C-17 and hold on for dear life. As that plane is taxiing out, the last plane leaving. And it's very sad that what people have to do, because they're very desperate. But other than that, that's all I have. And Tom, you did great this evening. I think everybody did great. And I'm waiting for the next movie, whatever that's going to be. With that, I'll give it back to Net Control. This is Kilo Golf 5 Juliet, the Pie Uniform.
Well, the feeling's mutual, Anthony. I appreciate you checking in tonight, and glad you're going to come back. Having somebody who is an insider in the airline business is a lot of fun because you can confirm, deny, and enhance or put to rest rumors about the industry. Being as I am a docent at Frontiers of Flight and get there and I get to meet pilots and everything, I get to hear a lot of this stuff too, and it's really fascinating. Okay, my final parting comment is Alfred Newman's music. I just loved it, and the first time I heard it, I wanted a copy of it. Of course, I was just a kid, but later on, I was able to secure it through Film Score Music, I think it was, and I had a proud owner of a copy of that soundtrack, which I love. Let's see. Other things about the film I loved was the 70 millimeter print was excellent. It was filmed in 70 millimeter. I'm trying to remember who did it. I can't recall. At any rate, he was excellent. He got nominated for Academy Award for it, so he deserved it. Edith Head did the costumes. Who doesn't love Edith Head? Oh, Ernest Laszlo is the guy who was nominated for Best Cinematography. Should have won. And it also was nominated for Sound, Screenplay, Supporting Actress, and Best Picture. Helen Hayes won for Best Supporting Actress. Maureen Stapleton was nominated also in that same category for Airport, but Helen Hayes won. Okay, that's it. Oh, I've got to set up. Give me a second here. I will tell you what next week's movie is. Stand by. about that. I was completely on a different page. We actually do have a Christmas movie next week. It is called A Christmas Carol from 1984. This is the one with George C. Scott as Ebenezer Scrooge. So that will be next week's film. We'll see you then. If you want to get caught up on everything, go ahead and send me an email that you would like to be put on the list for future movies, and I'll send you the links, usually Sunday morning sometime. Just let me know. Send it to me at KE5ITX, Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-ray at yahoo.com, or visit the Facebook webpage, which is Facebook group, which is Afterglow Movie. That's 2 words, Afterglow and movie, and you can see the same information. All the movies are listed under guides. It's about the only place I can do it without causing great pain. So you'll sort of pull down under Afterglow Movie. I'm going to say 7-3 to everybody. Thank you. Wonderful discussion. It was a lot of fun. So I'm saying bye-bye, bye-bye, 7-3, and so long.